and welcome to Silverstone for the first ever rounds of TCR UK. After months and months of planning, we're finally here and history is being made. In a little under 1 hour, we'll have the first ever race winner, and already the competition is hotting up. Yesterday's qualifying session was really a story of changeable weather and drama right up to the dying seconds, and we're hoping for much more of the same as we head into the inaugural race. But what is TCR and how did it come to the UK? Well, yesterday I caught up with TCR UK founder Jonathan Ashman to find out.
Well, I think originally it started a long time ago because I've been working with Marcello Lotti, who was the inventor of TCR, for many years. We did the World Touring Car Championship together, where I used to look after all the rules and regulations from the FIA's side. Marcello handled all the commercial side on World Touring Cars. We both finished working on World Touring Cars around the same time, and both of us had in the back of our minds that there needed to be a new type of touring car racing, and Marcello took that idea forward and really came up with the concept of TCR. And we decided to leave the UK to one of the last markets, because I think we're in about nearly 30 markets or something at the moment, because we knew the UK was going to be a very difficult place. Although there's a lot of motorsport in the UK, that makes it extremely competitive. So coming in with anything new was going to be tough. And then when it came to, well, who was going to do the UK, I was fairly obviously the candidate, having been involved for so long. Once I said, no, we get somebody else to do it. And Marcello said, basically, look, it's the UK, it's got to be your baby.
And what about the response then from the general public, the motorsport fans out there?
Well, that has been remarkably positive from a very early stage. It's obviously very encouraging because they've heard about TCR around the world. As you know, there's well over 600 TCR cars in 3 years. It's taken off worldwide like no other formula has ever done, not even just in touring car racing. Nothing's ever grown like TCR worldwide. And I think a lot of the fans had read about it worldwide, and everybody knew inevitably it would be coming to the UK. So there was a lot of latent interest waiting for it.
Interest from the fans. What about interest from drivers? Looking at the grid we've got out there, we've got some really experienced touring car drivers. We've got some drivers that are more club championship based. So it's quite a wide variety.
Well, that's the great appeal of TCR, because it's no motorsport is cheap, but TCR is very affordable as a touring car racing, and a lot of the guys here couldn't dream of doing any of the higher levels of touring cars because the cost difference is so enormous. But this is an affordable level for them, so at that stage. But the more professional guys are all looking to say, well, hang on, the future of touring car racing, if I want to get to the top of it in the world, as we've seen, Huff and Shedden and people like this are now going to the world, and James Thompson's going to the world. So even the professional guys in the UK are saying, look, if I want to be in the right place for the future, maybe I need to keep an eye on TCR in the UK.
So out there this weekend and for the rest of the season, what should we expect to see on track?
Never knowing who the winner's going to be.
And that's where we'll leave it. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Now, the commentary voice you're going to be hearing for this season's TCR UK is that of Andy McEwen. And yesterday, before qualifying, I caught up with him to talk about all the drivers, all the cars, and what to expect this coming season.
It really is hard to tell. It's one of the things that's making this weekend so exciting. We genuinely don't know who the pace setters are going to be. So far this weekend, the likes of Aidan Moffat, for example, he set the fastest lap so far this weekend. But there are other drivers that maybe could spring a bit of a surprise. Howard Fuller's shown flashes of pace, Ollie Taylor as well, and you can never count out Lewis Kent. That Hyundai is quick. Yeah,
well, we know that Howard Fuller has not been in a car for 3 years racing, but out on track he's got something about him, hasn't he?
Absolutely. He's really enjoying his time here at Silverstone this weekend. He's loving being back in a car, and I know for a fact he can't wait to get back into a race situation. But he, like most of the drivers, have been struggling with the conditions. There's been no consistency as far as the weather's concerned. Each time they've been on track, they've been faced with different grip levels, and Howard in particular, I feel, has been keeping his powder dry, waiting for the time to really push when it really matters.
Now, we looked at Finley Crocker, we've seen Ollie Taylor out there, he's looking very fast. The man behind you, Dan Lloyd, he's looking pretty impressive too.
If anyone should know how to pedal one of these things, it's Dan. Remember, he carried out the BOP test for the start of the season over in Europe. He knows how this car works, and he's probably got an idea of how the rest of the cars work as well. That might well help his racecraft come race time.
Absolutely. We've also got the two backmans to my right-hand side, Jessica and Andreas, and they're pretty used to the rallycross type of racing as well as karting. They say they've got a smooth driving style, but out there, a lot of sideways action.
Well, I think most people have suffered with that because of the conditions, but if any drivers are going to be good in those sort of conditions, you'd expect drivers who have come from racing on the loose, their car control skills may well help them. Andreas possibly has the slight edge out of the two, but don't count out Jessica, particularly come the reverse grid race too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many cars out there that we really have no idea about. The Hyundai i30N of Lewis Kent is looking like a pretty quick car. It's whether Lewis can keep the composure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's young, remember, 18 years old, fresh out of Fiesta racing. This is completely new to him, but he doesn't seem phased. He, like all of the other drivers here, really enjoying themselves, and he's got a point to prove. And the great thing about this championship is that he can go out there in a family-run team and go up against a big team like West Coast Racing or Laser Tools Racing.
Yeah, we could name all the drivers. We won't get to all of them, but Darrell Wilson's out there as well. We've got Ollie Kangas. He's from Finland. He's arrived for the weekend. We have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be exciting no matter what. Well, we've heard all about how TCR UK came to be, but earlier on I caught up with TCR chief Marcello Lotti and I asked him where it all began.
You know, we spend our life on touring car category and working, and we realized that was a little bit confusion at the, especially national level, regional level, about the different opportunity to run on TCR category with different regulation, very complicated old car. So for this we start to realize that it was time to make something affordable for everybody. And we start with some manufacturers, we start with some promoter, and now we are here, and I have to say there is more than 650 cars running in the world. All the cars the same, so each car can run everywhere, from national to regional to WTCR. And this, I think, was our goal, and at the moment 1-0 we are, and this is.
But you go from that concept of having the idea of let's all have a one format system for every nation, every region, to actually getting it to this stage. It's a lot trickier than you make it sound.
No, I think was not complicated in general. So I think everybody was waiting for something like that. So, and we offer something where in the place where there was a lot of demand. So at the end, this happened. So. Car is very affordable in terms of price of the car, in terms of running cost, and this I think is one of the point of success of this. And especially today we can say that the car is really also good performance in terms of sporting. They are formative for team, for driver.
So how's it been received by the potential drivers and the drivers that are in the championship, meaning they can go from country to country, region to region?
Yeah, this is also give opportunity to country, to driver to go to run in different championship, like you can, and team also to optimize their investment. Like you can see West Coast here, they want to stay full season with the 3 cars. They have these drivers that run in TCR Scandinavia, and also they want to run here in TCR UK, and they can add 1 car more with 1 driver in Scandinavia and then another good driver like Daniel here in TCR UK. This is confirm what you say.
Lovely. And finally, if you looked into your crystal ball at the future of TCR UK and TCR in general, what do you predict?
Well, it's difficult because the TCR expand more than what I expected before. So I think UK will be one of the best touring car arena, TCR arena for the futures. Clearly will be soon at the same level of Germany or Italy or the other.
Fantastic. We'll let you go and get warm now. Thank you very much, Marcello.
Thank you to you. Ciao, ciao.
Well, number 23 is Dan Lloyd, sitting pretty in pole position, as you can see. He's a very happy man at the moment. We'll come to qualifying in just a bit, but you can see the team going through all the pre-race preparation. As we head down, though, we can find Aidan Moffat. Here he is. We're going and grab Aidan right now. We're going to have a quick word with him. Aidan, how are you doing? So we're ahead of the first race. If you look around, there's a lot of people here, a lot of interest in the championship from day one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic championship. It's proven worldwide. It's got a huge manufacturer interest. and the cars are brilliant. They're very good to drive. So I think it's definitely a championship that's going to take off. It's already took off around the world. It's just the UK's turn for it to take off now.
Well, you say it's a fun car to drive. What makes it such a fun car compared to other cars you've driven over the years?
It's a very forgiving car. It's still very fast. It's still a lot of grip and handles well. But when you do get it sideways, as I did a few times, trying to find the limits in changing conditions, it's very forgiving, and you can really be on the edge in all conditions with the car, and it doesn't try anything nasty. It doesn't feel like it's going to kill you every corner. So no, it's very enjoyable.
Actually, talking about the weather, yesterday it was really changeable the whole time. Today, looking up, it's cloudy, but the track is looking pretty nice, pretty dry.
Yeah, this is like summer for me from Scotland. This is like I was about to put my shorts on. No, it's the car felt good in the dry, so I'm fairly confident that we'll have a good shot here.
It's going to be tricky for you though, because your testing and the amount of time you spent in that car on dry conditions is pretty limited.
Yeah, I think we've done about 4 laps, so not much at all, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
Absolutely, into the unknown. Good luck, Aidan, well done. Aidan starting second on the grid. Like I say, we'll come to the qualifying story in just a little bit. As we head down, we might as well grab hold of Howard Fuller as well. Now, Howard was pretty emotional yesterday when he got his third place. Sorry, as we dive through. Howard here, if we could just dive into Howard, sorry. Howard, yesterday you were feeling quite emotional, so I'll try and get the mic in, feeling quite emotional about your third place start. How are you feeling today? The nerves settled?
You know, well, I'm feeling absolutely fine at the moment. I mean, TCR have done everything they can up until right now, and it's up to us as drivers to be ambassadors for the championship, to make sure that we're putting on a good show, we're racing cleanly, we're racing fairly, and you know, it's up to us now. And it's a close turnaround to race 2. I'm really excited. We've got a lot of people supporting us. I'm so excited. So thank you to you guys and to everyone. I really wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys.
When you talk about the fans, can you really feel the sense of the people watching back home and the hype around it? Looking here on the grid, it's very, very busy, something that you might not be used to, seeing as you've been out of the seat for 3 years.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just testament to what we're doing. We've been HKF Racing, that's who we are. We've got unbelievable support, and it really shows. 3 years out of a car, and we've still got such a strong following. And I think with what the championship are providing for sponsors and for drivers like myself, the package works perfectly. I'm so privileged to be here. Thank you.
Well done for yesterday, and good luck out there today. Howard starting third on the grid. As I say, we'll give you the full qualifying story as we go along. Let's have a look here. Lewis Kent here. He's currently out of the car. He's starting 4th. But see, Lewis yesterday, well, we thought he was actually going to get pole at one point. And, well, they weren't celebrating in the garage, but a lot changed near the end of qualifying. And it did kind of lead to an unusual story for Lewis. We've got Ollie Taylor to the left-hand side. In fact, let's go and grab Ollie. If we go and see Ollie here, he's another driver who has been very, very, very quick. In fact, let's get out of your way. Sorry, Zach. Very, very quick. And he's had a little bit of mentoring by Josh Files. So, Ollie, how are you feeling?
Yeah, confident. A little bit anxious. Want to get the first one. Once these lights go out, I'm sure all will be fine. 30-minute race, anything can happen.
Now, your legs are jittering a bit there. Are you feeling the nerves?
No, just prepared. Yeah, just prepared. Yeah, it was good.
And what has Josh Files said to you on the lead up to this, as your mentor, as somebody helping you out?
I think we know what we've got to do. Just let the race unfold. Keep our head clean. See what we can do.
Well, there we go. We'll be watching with eagle eyes, I think, and all the action. So let's head a little bit further down the grid as we keep on going. We've got Darrell here in the Astra, the only Astra on the grid. And Darrell's sitting here in his beautiful, beautiful Union flag helmet. Let's just undo this and try and get in. Darrell, if I get out the way of the camera, it would normally help. So, Darrell, how are you doing? At the moment, we're saying that you're the only driver in a Vauxhall, in the Astra.
Yeah, I'm the only driver in the Vauxhall. Yeah, we only done 2 sessions yesterday, and that was the first time I was in the car. Qualifying was the second session I've ever been in the car. I did 10 laps. Yeah, I put it on P1 for a bit in the wet, so the car quick in the wet. It started to dry out, and then I fell back. But we done the tyre change too late in the session, so that made me drop down in the order. But yeah, the car feels good. You know what I mean? I know how to drive. We're just pulling the two together and being at the front. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, you know how to drive exactly, but getting into something that you've not been driving much is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, but you know me, I'm always down for a challenge. So, you know, watch it, okay?
Well, good luck with you. Darryl Wilson there, starting a little bit further back on the grid than he wanted to. And we're talking about different manufacturers. There are actually 6 different representative manufacturers here. We've got another Golf to the left-hand side. We have 2 Swedish drivers on the grid, brother and sister, the Backmans. We've got Jessica and we've got Andreas as well. We'll try and grab one of those at one stage. We've got another foreigner, as we can say, another international driver here. We've got Ollie Kangas. And in fact, we might be able to get hold of Ollie now. He's out of the car. Let's see if we can dive in and grab him. First time we've really caught up with Ollie. Hey, hello, Ollie. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited.
Excited. There's a lot of people around here. The interest in TCR UK has it's been phenomenal, hasn't it?
Yeah, this is interesting, but yesterday's qualifying is not good for me.
Well, you had a tricky time because you didn't arrive until very late on Friday evening, so your time in the car has been limited.
Yeah, only 1 hour, almost.
1 hour, and here you are about to go around on the first ever TCR UK race. So what do you think you can do out there?
Yeah, hopefully in the race 2, maybe podium. And now in the race 1, I have to fight a lot.
Try to get up the grid and try to get a podium for race 2. Well, we heard it here first. Well, good luck to you. We'll head further on down the grid. We've got a couple of different Honda Civics, and we've got the brand new one here of Finley Crocker, and he's trying to get his marker put on the board right now. Let's see if we can get in and grab hold of Finley. I know that he's been all over the place. He's had limited time in the car as well. But Finley, can we get hold of you for a quick second? As you see, he's trying to get his marker point at the moment, trying to fight through the crowds with that. Looking around at the interest, it's taken off, but you're here further back than you wanted to be.
Absolutely. And I've got the least girl-like grid girl as well, because it's a bloke. But anyway, you can't have everything. So, yeah, we are where we are. It's not been... Yesterday was just a bit of a disaster, and we're starting here. So, looking to go forward and have some fun.
Well, having fun is partly what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, allegedly, yeah. Anybody that says they're not competitive shouldn't be here, as they say. But, yeah, we were disappointed with yesterday, and I made a lot of mistakes and probably compounded a couple of bad choices we'd made setup-wise. So, yeah, we've got it all to do. So,
well, good luck to that.
Nobody to blame but ourselves, but there you go.
There you go. He's a very big man to not blame himself. He was saying that he was trying to blame himself earlier on. He's saying it's all his fault, but there's more to it than that. Now, yesterday we had an incredible qualifying session with drama up to the last second. And here's a quick look at what happened. Well, the first story from qualifying is that one of the cars has not made it out. Derek, what has happened to the car behind?
Well, we had an issue with injectors. We had a faulty injector yesterday. Being Easter weekend, we had great difficulty locating one. And after chasing from one end of the country to the other, we finally located one about 50 miles from here. So we've got a new set of injectors heading in at this minute in time, but we're not going to make qualifying.
We're only about 5 minutes into qualifying. You can see Lewis Kent is going on to slick tyres, a dry line emerging on track. That should bring the times down. He's currently about 5th as well, so looking good. Maybe, just maybe, a pole sitter. We'll find out very soon. Well, 10 minutes into the qualifying session, Dan Lloyd has just set a fastest time into the 102s now. He's on slick tyres, which tells us the track is really starting to come back to the drivers now. And we've even got our Swedes now moving from the wet tyres onto the dries. So Carla's now moving the rear tyres to the front there and vice versa. As they try and find those seconds in qualifying, everyone's pretty much doing the same thing now, moving fronts to backs, backs to fronts to try and find those extra seconds. Well, Josh, we just seen you talking to Finley. What words of encouragement are you giving him?
Go as fast as you possibly can, because no one has any idea what the weather's doing at the minute. So, yeah, you just got to go out there and go for it.
What is the strategy? I mean, you've been here before, you've seen these conditions before. What are you saying to him for strategy-wise? I mean, it's slick tyres now, but...
I mean, I don't know what's out the back of the track. I've heard it's raining, so I really don't know what the answer is, I have to say. One driver's saying we need wets, the other one's saying slick, so...
What we've found is some of the cars went slick on the front and wet on the rear. Their time seemed to be the best time, so I think we've left it slightly later, which I'm hoping gives us an advantage, so let's see.
Let's see. Cheers, Bob. So there you go, Bob saying they got slicks on the front, wets on the rear. They found that some other cars out there are getting some really good times by mix matching the tyres. Let's hope for Avon he can get some more time, because currently he's about a second off the pace. Well, I'm here with David, team manager for, as you can see, Essex and Kent Motorsport. Lewis out there, how's he doing?
He's doing very well. He's just gone up to 4th place, which we're quite pleased about. there's some good drivers out there, and for Lewis to be mixing it with them, it's excellent. Car's good, he's good, we're all confident we're going to do well.
Well, 6 minutes to go, and a lot of the drivers on slicks, in fact most of them full slick setup, but the rain has started to come again. It's everyone trying to second guess the weather, and the weather seems to hold all of the cars.
Going out a little bit later, I think it's worked because as the track's drying, I think some of the lads that went out earlier with the slicks on, I think maybe their slicks were going off a little bit. So what we've got, is it a lap left or something, is it? It's not over yet.
What a mastermind.
It's not over yet. It's not over to his mother sings.
Well, Bob Moffat said that it wasn't over, and he was right. On that last lap, Dan Lloyd has taken it by 0.2 of a second. Incredible first qualifying here in the TCR UK. Well, Dan, that was remarkable. The last lap of the first qualifying session, and you got it.
Yeah, it was exciting. Not an easy session, not straightforward. We knew it wasn't going to be because of the weather conditions, but we didn't even expect that. We took a gamble earlier on to go on slicks on the front and wets on the back. We banked a lap at the start, which was good. We took a bit of a gamble doing the slicks on the front, come in, went 4 slicks all round, and then it was drying, so we went to put some fresher set on, which would have been perfect. That was going to go good, but then it started spitting, dropped off by like 3 seconds, and I thought, that's it, it's over. And it started coming back and finding big chunks of time. Said to my engineer, how long's left? And he said, you got another 2 laps. And I thought, and so I really set myself up to make sure the last lap counted. It was a good lap, and the guys waited the full lap to tell me I was pole, so we were just waiting for the cars to come through. So yeah, over the moon. I'm glad it did the job.
It wasn't just a good lap, it was a great lap. You just got pole.
It's exciting, you know. Any pole is awesome, but in conditions like that, you know, you need to make it count. On the last lap, when it's the driest, you need to push it. So yeah, it gives you a good satisfaction when you know you've done it.
Do we dare ask you about tomorrow? I mean, tomorrow, the first ever TCR UK race. You're starting from the front. Surely you're going to win it.
I don't know. We'll see. You know, never underestimate anyone. You don't know what the conditions are going to be like, but the aim is to win it, and I'm sure the car will be good enough, and see how we get on. But yeah, that's the aim.
That is the aim. Dan Lloyd, congratulations, the first ever pole sitter, TCR UK.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, we are on the grid, as you can see. It's now clearing, everybody leaving the grid. The nerves around this place, everyone is on edge. We can tell that history really is being made. It's not often you start a championship at the very, very beginning, but in around half an hour's time from now, we're going to have the first ever race winner in TCR UK. And I can tell you, every single one of those drivers out there want to be on the top step and have their name in the history books. It's pretty phenomenal. We've got a lot of the organisers still around here as well, getting their last-minute photos, their last-minute selfies, as you can see Jen just there. This is kind of part of her brainchild. She's the reason it's all here. She's been working very, very hard. She refuses to talk on the microphone, but we'll give her that one. And you can see a last few moments going on here. We've spoken to Josh Files over the last few days. He's been mentoring Ollie Taylor and Finley Crocker, and he has been giving them as much information as he can and trying to get them as focused as he possibly can. There's no doubt that Ollie Taylor is a very fast driver, but will he be there at the very end? We just don't know. Eyes at the front here, Dan Lloyd looking as focused as we'd expect, but I do know for sure that Aidan Moffat just there, he's also got his eyes firmly on the prize, and he's the sort of driver out there that you would not write off. So we are ready to run away. The noise is going here on the track. We've got to clear. So right now, off to our commentator. Over to you, Andy McEwen.
Thank you very much, Bryn. This is very exciting, isn't it? The start of a new adventure in touring car racing in the UK. TCR UK, it's been a long time coming. It's finally here. And not one of us can predict what is going to happen over the course of the next 30 minutes or so. A 30-minute race, 2 30-minute races today for TCR UK. That's a fairly lengthy race for touring car racing. It's a short, sharp circuit, though. This will be fun. Confirmation of your grid then. Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat on the front row of the grid, separated by only 2/10, but hard to read too much into that due to the fact the conditions were so changeable yesterday in qualifying. Howard Fuller, very emotional after he qualified on the inside of row 2, and he's got Lewis Kent alongside him, who until about 30 seconds from the end of the session it looked like would be on pole position himself. Ollie Taylor and Carl Swift make up row 5. Carl is the first of the cars on the grid running the DSG gearbox, with Darrell Wilson and Andreas Bachmann on row 4. Then further back, row 5, we have Ollie Kangas and Jessica Bachmann. Finley Crocker and Stuart Lyons, the other DSG entrant, on the 6th row of the grid. And Derek Palmer, we believe, has made it out there at the back of the grid. So we've got a full quota of cars ready and raring to go. Right, the green flag lap is underway then. This is it, the final opportunity for the drivers to see what the conditions are like. We heard Aidan Moffat referring to the fact that over the course of the weekend, and the weekend in this case includes 3 free practice sessions on Friday, a warm free practice session and a qualifying session yesterday, Aidan believes they've had about 4 laps of dry running. So really, nobody knows, not only does nobody know what the conditions are like, where the grip is, remember the circuit's been resurfaced over the winter as well, but no one really knows what setup to go with, because even the pre-season test here a few weeks ago was very damp indeed. So a lot of these teams, I would imagine, have gambled somewhat on the car setup. The drivers will be gambling somewhat on, you know, how they're going to drive the cars, where the grip's going to be, how to look after the tyres over the course of 30 minutes as well. That's going to be an interesting one to watch for. There are lots and lots of questions to be answered. Some of them will be answered over the course of the next 30 minutes. Dan Lloyd in the VW Golf on pole position, and we had all 6 of the manufacturers represented in the championship this weekend. Inside the top 7 on the grid, we've got the VW of Dan Lloyd on pole position, the Alfa Romeo Giulietta of Aidan Moffat alongside. Then we've got Honda and Hyundai on row 2 with Howard Fuller and Lewis Kent. Ollie Taylor in another Honda, but then he has Carl Swift in the first of the Cupras on row 3. And Darrell Wilson in the first ever TCR Vauxhall. The Astra-shaped TCR car has been racing over on the continent for the last year or so, but always branded as an Opel. But since we're in the UK, they've stuck a Vauxhall badge on it. It is officially a Vauxhall Astra TCR car. He's the green car you can see there in the middle of the pack. No one knows who's going to win this race. No one knows who's going to win the championship this year. But what we do know is that we're set for plenty of entertaining racing. Aidan Moffat really working the tyres hard. Of course, one of the key things, these are short wheelbase, front wheel drive touring cars. So heating the front tyres up isn't too hard, but heating the rear tyres up, especially given the fact the sun's gone back in now, the track temperature, the ambient temperature are just starting to drop. Rear tyre temperature is key, and Brooklands Corner at the end of the Wellington Straight for the first few laps is always tricky in a front-wheel drive car. It's the only left-hander on the circuit, and that right rear tyre takes a long time to warm up. Here we go then. Deep breath, everybody. TCR UK for 2018 is about to fire into life. At the back of the grid, Stuart Lyons and Derek Palmer line up. Who is going to become the first ever race winner in TCR UK? Let's find out. Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat on the front row of the grid together. The green flag has been waved at the back of the grid. The revs start to rise. The lights go out. Now we are away and racing in TCR UK. Good start made by Dan Lloyd. Darrell Wilson a bit sluggish away from midfield, but it is Lloyd that will lead down towards the Cops Corner for the first time. Moffat into second. Who comes through in third? It looked like Lewis Kent was challenging on the inside line, and Lewis has taken third place. Ollie Taylor there in fourth, but immediately Lloyd and Moffat starting to streak away. Kent third, fourth place for Taylor, and Carl Swift is attacking for fifth position as well. Those DSG cars do get off the line well. It's actually going to be Andreas Bachmann though who comes through into fifth. Swift is sixth. Howard Fuller is the one who's lost out there. Started third, he's down to seventh. Ollie Kangas, the yellow car, is in eighth position. You see the drivers weaving left to right down the Wellington Straight, trying to get some last minute temperature in their tyres, and Moffat's immediately on the attack up the inside of Dan Lloyd into Brooklands. It doesn't quite pay off. Behind them, Ollie Taylor has gone third. So Lewis Kent slips back down into fourth place, and Ollie Taylor, who was quickest at the pre-season test here at Silverstone a few weeks ago, is starting to make his presence known. Derek Palmer there has found a way past Stuart Lyons as well, so he's already making progress, but he has had virtually zero running all weekend in the second of the Laser Tools Alphas. 1 lap completed. Dan Lloyd leads the way by just under half a second over Eden Moffat. It's then a further 2 and a bit seconds back to everybody else trying to be third. There's Carl Swift. He's attacking Andreas Backman, the Finnish driver, as the Swedish driver, excuse me, as they come out of Kopp's corner for the second time, and it's third place on back where it's all starting to get quite interesting. Carl Swift will be made up with this. Oh, Kent's a bit wide. Backman thought about going up the inside of him. That did not pay off. He backs out of the manoeuvre. And look out for Howard Fuller there. The black and fluorescent blue car starting to begin the fight back after his slightly off start. Down the back straight they go, and in fact it looks like he's attacking Carl Swift as Andreas Backman goes up the inside of Lewis Kent again, and he's through. Brilliant performance this is from Andreas Backman. He's through into 4th position, and Lewis Kent is down to 5th. He's now coming under pressure from Carl Swift, who will be loving being in the fight for a top 5 position. Back out of Luffield they go, Fuller in behind, then Kangas. Good stuff here from Finlay Crocker as well. He's been a bit miserable all weekend, but this is looking much more promising for the new shape Honda Civic. Back across the line we go then. There's Taylor in 3rd, Backman, Andreas Backman that is, in 4th ahead of Kent. There's Ollie Kangas, who, although he hasn't had quite as much track time this weekend as everyone else, he was here a few weeks ago competing with that team in the Silverstone 24-hour race. Of course, that's a TCR race now as well, and so he is familiar with parts of the circuit at least. Plenty of curve taken there by Lewis Kent as he come out through Beckett's corner for the 3rd time of asking. Aidan Moffat has set the fastest lap of the race, incidentally, but he was only a few hundredths quicker than Dan Lloyd on the previous lap, so there's nothing to choose between these two. Lloyd a bit deep on the brakes into Brooklands, gathers it all together. Dan Lloyd carried out all of the balance of performance tests over in Spain pre-season for TCR before he was confirmed to be racing in this series, so he's driven an awful lot of these cars and knows how they work. Replay of the start here. You can see Finlay Crocker further back getting a really good start in the white, red and black Honda, but at the front Dan Lloyd got a textbook getaway. Howard Fuller didn't appear to get too bad a start, but then maybe just got hung out to dry through Kopp's corner, and that's why he started to lose a bit of ground. He's fighting back though now. Fuller into 6th, in behind the Hyundai of Lewis Kent. That's the orange and white number 38 car just in front of him, with Ollie Kangas not far behind either. Daniel Lloyd, meanwhile, has set a new fastest lap of the race, so he's just pulled just over half a second now over Aidan Moffat at the front of the field. Carl Swift, I noticed, though, has dropped down the order, and this is why. Wow, that was close. Oh, what a shame. Carl Swift, I just said, was doing so well, and that's that cold right rear tyre I warned you about. He just lost it under braking into Brooklands and was lucky not to collect Lewis Kent on his way around. So Carl Swift now becomes one to watch for. He's fallen, he's about 1.7 seconds actually behind the other DSG gearboxed car. A DSG gearbox essentially is a flappy paddle gearbox, so you have a paddle on the right to switch up gear, a paddle on the left to switch down gears, whereas the rest of the cars are using a sequential gear shifter. Now the DSG gearbox is a bit heavier, not quite as quick, but there is a class of their own, and whoever wins that championship at the end of the year gets a free upgrade to the sequential box, and it's Stuart Lyons and Carl Swift who are going head to head in that title battle. So we're joining now Lewis Kent. This is the battle for 5th place. Lewis Kent ahead of Howard Fuller, ahead of very late on the brakes, Ollie Kangas, and Finlay Crocker also involved in this. So this is essentially the whole second half of the field, a little bit more really, and they're all getting very close together indeed. The slipstream here really coming into play to keep the field nice and close together. Kent defending, Fuller dives to the inside. What a move from Howard Fuller. Can he stop the car on the brakes? Yes, he can. Kent runs a bit wide as well, but Howard Fuller goes through into 5th position. That was pure confidence on the brakes. You would not believe this is Howard Fuller's first competitive race in 3 years, and that was the move of a veteran. Fantastic stuff from Howard, and he moves himself into the top 5. Leaders flash back through again. There's Ollie Taylor in 3rd, and this is the battle for 5th, and now it's Ollie Kangas looking up the inside of Lewis Kent as well, down towards Kopp's corner. This is for 6th position, and it's all starting to fall apart slightly for Lewis Kent. Oh, there's been a contact. Kangas sideways off onto the runoff area. Brilliant car control that from Ollie Kangas, as you'd expect from the Scandinavian, but that has scattered the pack now. Look at this. Lewis Kent, Finlay Crocker, Darrell Wilson, all right together, and it looks as though Lewis Kent maybe is going to get back in front. Yes, he is. Finlay Crocker gets a run on the pair of them, though, coming out of Beckett's corner, and Darrell Wilson says, I want to play too. Where can I go? There's room for 4 cars abreast down the Wellington Straight. Well, he's certainly going to try it, isn't he? 3 abreast at least we have, with Kent on the inside and Crocker going right around the outside. Phenomenal move from the Scotsman, but he's a bit late on the brakes. Lewis Kent comes back at him. What great racing we're being treated to to here at Silverstone, and Kent is back in front. Fantastic stuff. Oh, bit of paint traded. Crocker back up the inside. Now, has he got the performance in a straight line to make the move stick? Finley Crocker and Lewis Kent side by side through Woodcote Corner. This is all playing beautifully into the hands of Howard Fuller, who's cleared off from a 6-car battle that's raging for 6th place on back, and it's Finley Crocker who gets into 6th. Kent and Darrell Wilson now side by side for 7th, and also joining in is Jessica Bachmann, sister of Andreas Bachmann, running in 4th place, and Derek Palmer in the 2nd of the Alfa Romeos. Oh, Darrell Wilson! Contact with Lewis Kent, and Darrell Wilson is off into the gravel trap. What a shame. That was such close racing, and you sensed eventually maybe there was going to be a bit of contact. Replay immediately of what happened. They're side by side, they're braking on a turn, and it's really difficult to run side by side through that braking zone. And I think Darrell moved left, Lewis moved right, and unfortunately it's the Vauxhall Astra that finds its way into the gravel trap. Drama indeed, and there's a bit more pushing and shoving now. That's Jessica Bachmann getting stuck into the back of Lewis Kent's Hyundai. We've got Derek Palmer also in this group, as Jessica looks to have got a good run out of Luffield there. She was attacking as they went down across the start-finish line, and whether she made that move still, we'll find out. Yes, she has, and Derek Palmer coming up the inside as well. So Lewis Kent's race really has not panned out the way I think we expected it to. This has been a bit of a shame for Lewis. That bit of contact may well have unsettled him as well. He's fighting back though up the inside, isn't he, of the Alfa Romeo, and he's looking on the brakes, but there are yellow flags at Beckett, so no overtaking allowed, because of course they are busy extracting Darrell Wilson's car from the gravel trap. Just a quick note as well to say, well, we're back with the leaders here. Daniel Lloyd has this 1.4 second lead over Aidan Moffat, but the fastest man on the track is the 4th place man, Andreas Bachmann, and he is almost with Oliver Taylor now. So there's a nice little battle for 3rd place about to develop, and in fact Andreas has set the fastest lap of the race, so he is really starting to close in now on the Honda Civic in front of him. There's his sister Jessica, but here is the fight for 3rd, and the gap stays about the same that time around. Oliver Taylor to Andreas Bachmann, officially 6.5 tenths. But Bachmann, this has been a bit of a revelation really, because in the wet conditions, neither of the Bachmanns really were featuring particularly towards the sharp end of the timing sheet. But these two cars being run by West Coast Racing, an extremely experienced touring car and particularly TCR team, and they know what they're doing. They know how to set a car up. They are also the team looking after Dan Lloyd this weekend as well. So West Coast Racing with 3 cars out on the track, they can share data, they can share information between themselves, of course. I don't think it's any coincidence that it's that team that possibly has got to grips with the car on the track this weekend the quickest. Jessica Bachmann then making her way down in towards Brooklands. She's in behind Ollie Kangas in the yellow Cupra, and just behind her the 2nd of the Laser Tools Racing Alfa Romeos. There's the other one, Aidan Moffat, who just took a 1/10 of a second or so out of Dan Lloyd that time, so the gap is back down at the front of the field. 3rd place for Taylor, 4th Bachmann. There's Howard Fuller running in 5th. Finley Crocker, of course, now up into 6th position, and then this the battle for 7th. So this is Ollie Kangas from Jessica Bachmann. And Jessica, like her brother Andreas, has come out of a karting and then rallycross background and is preparing to compete in several rounds of the Scandinavian TCR Championship this year as well. But we would very much like to see the pair of them pack, because they're both providing us with lots and lots of entertainment. Jessica Bachmann getting stuck in here in the midfield, and Andreas going after a podium finish potentially. Back down the Wellington straight they go, and is Jessica close enough to have a dive up the inside? She's thinking about it, but Kangas is late enough on the brakes to put her off having a go of that move. And they make their way through the corner in the same order. Would you believe? Oh, Jessica very late on the brakes then into Luffield, nearly clattered into the back of the Cupra, but they managed to keep it clean. Would you believe we're already a 1/3 of the way through the race, so 20 minutes still to go. The race is flying by rapidly. Because of the quality of the racing we've seen further back, well, all through the field really. At the front of the field, Aidan Moffat sets a personal best lap, but it's not as quick as Dan Lloyd is going. So the top 2 trading lap times at the moment, the gap sort of hovering around the 1 second, 1.2 second marker. They're 3.3 seconds ahead of Oliver Taylor, who in turn has only 7/10 of a second in hand over Andreas Bachmann. Back out of Beckett's we go. There is Jessica Bachmann. There is her teammate Daniel Lloyd. Dan Lloyd leading the way as he makes his way out onto the pit straight. Meanwhile, here is the Kangas Bachmann and Derek Palmer battle. I'm quite impressed here with Derek Palmer, running in 9th position, bearing in mind he did not turn a wheel all day yesterday. He had some running on Friday morning in the official pre-season test, but then it was Friday afternoon when they had this mystery misfire and they were looking into what it might be. They tried everything. They couldn't get to the bottom of what it was. And finally on Saturday morning they figured out what it was. It was a fuel injector issue, but then they had to try and source replacement fuel injectors, which meant he didn't run at all yesterday. And so as a result, this is all a big learning experience for Derek Palmer, former BTCC racer, of course, as well as multiple other categories. And I'm very impressed here that he's running inside the top 10. Just a quick mention on Carl Swift as well, who I was talking about earlier on. He has now caught Lewis Kent. So Lewis Kent has slipped all the way back to 11th position, and Carl Swift, after his spin early on, has caught him. So that's a nice little battle that we'll keep an eye on, as well as Carl tries to work his way back up the order. He's also actually with Stuart Lyons, so the top 2 DSG runners are separated by only a second on track, and there's 1 car between them, and that's just towards the back end of the top 10. Ooh, Ollie Kangas a bit wide there through Luffield. Jessica Beckman thinks about the inside through Woodcote, which is easily flat in these conditions, but there's nothing to choose performance-wise between the Cupra and the Golf. They make their way down in towards Copse Corner. Ollie Kangas is using the sequential gearbox, unlike the other 2 Cupras in the race, which are DSG. So 1.8 seconds the margin between Lloyd and Moffat, then Taylor, Andreas Bachmann, Howard Fuller and Finlay Crocker next in line. And Finlay Crocker is catching Howard Fuller, so 5th place is getting a bit closer as well, although there are a couple of seconds between them at the moment. Dan Lloyd cocks a right rear wheel as he turns his way through Luffield Corner, back out onto the Silverstone pit straight as we approach half race distance. Jessica Bachmann still can't prise the door open. She's asking all the right questions of Ollie Kangas here, but so far Ollie has all of the correct answers, doesn't he? He's covering where he needs to, but not defending overly, and so as a result he's not losing his momentum, and Jessica hasn't been able to force a mistake out of him either. So such a young pair of drivers, neither of them cracking under the pressure so far. Back down towards Copse Corner, Jessica just peeks to the inside, not so much to try and actually make a move, just to try and distract Ollie really. That little flash of blue in his wing mirrors might just have been enough to make him maybe miss a braking point, miss an apex, and maybe open the opportunity for Jessica to have a go at getting through. It didn't work though, and so it is still the yellow Cupra ahead of the blue Golf. Lloyd back through. There's Aidan Moffat. The gap's now grown to 2.4 seconds between the 2 of them. So Lloyd does appear to have the pace through the middle portion of the race. In fact, there are several. The cars immediately behind Moffat are now lapping quicker than him by nearly a second a lap. Oliver Taylor took 9/10 out of Aidan Moffat last time. You can see Ollie Taylor in 3rd place. He's getting larger and larger in the wing mirrors for Aidan Moffat. So Taylor for 2nd is not beyond the realms of possibility. He was 2/10 quicker again that lap. So Oliver Taylor in that 3rd place, quickest at the pre-season test here a few weeks ago, in mixed conditions to say the least, and he's starting to translate some of that testing pace into race pace now today in this first round of the championship. Points have already been scored in this championship, incidentally, because there are points on offer for qualifying. 11 points go the way of the pole sitter. So Dan Lloyd is your championship leader in theory coming into this race, and he is 2 points clear of Aidan Moffat. But of course Dan is still ahead of Aidan in this race at the moment. So speaking of Alfa Romeos, that's Aidan's teammate Derek Palmer. And sadly, that car that's been plagued with issues this weekend is in the pits and going into the garage. So Derek Palmer's race quite possibly is done. We'll wait and see. So Lloyd to Moffat 2.5 seconds. Taylor quicker again than Moffat. So Taylor to Moffat down to under 1.5 seconds now. Andreas Bachmann's going with him. So Aidan Moffat's 2nd place is far from secure here. There is Howard Fuller, he's running 5th, Finlay Crocker's 6th, and then this battle has been raging all race long really between Ollie Kangas and Jessica Bachmann for 7th position. Continues to rage, although Kangas possibly just pulling a bit of a gap now. For Dan Lloyd, it's been reasonably plain sailing so far. Moffat had a couple of goes at getting through on the opening lap or so. But now, really, Moffat's race focus turns more from attack to defence. You can see the car doesn't look particularly happy, does it, as it goes through Luffield. Is Oliver Taylor going to be quicker than him again on this lap? He's been taking about 0.2 of a second a lap out of Moffat, and he's now less than a second and a half behind. So let's see the lap times. A 59.3 for Lloyd, 59.5 for both Moffat and Taylor. Bachmann, the fastest car on the track that lap, in 4th position. So Andreas Bachmann is continuing to close in on the 2 in front of him. So second back to 4th, covered by less than 2 seconds now. Fuller is still 5th, Finley Crocker catching him as well. So one of the good things about a slightly longer race is that through this middle portion, we start watching the timing screen with interest to see who's got the long distance pace, because this is, I reiterate the point, quite a long race for a touring car championship. Touring car races tend to be sort of 20-minute sprints, don't they? And it's all hell for leather right from the word go. But this race, 30 minutes, tyre management is absolutely critical. So Moffat makes his way out of Luffield. So there goes Jessica Bachmann. She's making her way through Luffield. There's Aidan Moffat. The gap comes down fractionally, but down in the pit lane, the action continues for Derek Palmer. Bryn is there with some news.
Yeah, thanks very much, Andy. I'm here with Derek Palmer Jr. You can see he's getting out of the car right now. And I've spoken to the team. They had problems with an injector over the last number of days. They suspect it's come back to bite them again. Whether they get out for the next race, we don't know. We can see Derek Palmer Jr. is out of the car, and that's all we know at this stage.
All right, thanks very much, Bryn. Derek, you saw getting out of the car, so his race is done by the looks of it. Dan Lloyd, 2.7 seconds clear of Aidan Moffat, who was a 10th of a second quicker than Ollie Taylor last time, but neither of them are as quick as Andreas Bachmann. So the 4th place car is still the fastest car on the track at the moment, and he's nearly within a second of a podium place. This, meanwhile, is Finley Crocker, and he has almost caught Howard Fuller. Again, taking 1 to 2/10 of a second out of Howard every lap is Finley. Now, Finley is racing the latest specification Honda. This is the new Shape Civic, and he hasn't particularly rated his chances, particularly performance-wise, car performance-wise, at least this weekend, but he really has come on strong. He was doing a rain dance last night. He felt that the only chance he would have to be right up at the front would be if we had a wet race. Well, it's bone dry out there, and he's closing in on a top 5. So as he heads out of Cops Corner, I believe we can head back down to the pit lane where Bryn possibly is caught up with Derek Palmer.
Yeah, thanks again, Andy. I've got Derek Palmer Jr. here, as you say, and now it hasn't gone to plan. Is it the injector again?
I'm not sure at this moment. Just the engine note changed, and then we obviously lost power, so just stopped it as quickly as I could. Wasn't getting any warnings on the warning in the dash in the car, so need to figure out what's going on.
It's been a tricky weekend for you so far, not what you hoped for when you came in on Friday.
Yeah, this side of the garage has been struggling, but Aidan's carrying the torch, and he seems to be doing it quite well. So we were having a good race up to that point. The pace was good. Because we hadn't qualified or done any running in the last 2 days, I was bedding brakes and new tyres, so it took a while for everything to come on, and just as it began to really switch on and the brakes were there, then we had the problem with the engine. So yeah, it's the way it goes sometimes.
It certainly is. Well, hopefully we'll see you back out for race 2, but for now, thanks very much. Derek Palmer Jr.
Yeah, thanks very much, Bryn. It's a rare thing, actually, to see a TCR car hit a mechanical issue. Remember, these cars are built and designed to go 24-hour racing if they wanted to. TCR endurance racing is the latest craze sweeping the globe, and there are endurance racing classes in the UK, across Europe, in America even. So these cars are capable of ploughing around for 24 hours at a time. It's rare that one of them hits a mechanical drama. Finley Crocker then is now within a second of Howard Fuller. So this is closer than he's been so far. The new Shape Civic catching the old Shape Civic, which hops and bounces its way into Luffield. The cars really do look great when they're being driven on the edge, don't they? But we're now starting to head into an uncharted territory. We're 20 minutes in, we have 10 minutes still to go. If any drivers or any cars are going to start running into tyre wear issues, this is when it's going to start to show. At the front of the field, the lap times are all fairly settled. This is the gap that's really coming down. It came down by another 2/10 that time, actually, so Finley Crocker is only 3/4 of a second behind Howard Fuller now, and he's going to start to pick up a little bit of a slipstream. That will, in turn, help his straight line speed, and that will help him as well as Howard Fuller runs wide, locks up a break in towards Beckett, and that was nearly the opportunity that Crocker needed. If he'd been one car length closer, he could have stuck it up the inside there and maybe taken the position. So Crocker looking for 5th place now as he heads down towards the left-hand braking point at Brooklands. Not quite close enough to have a go under braking on this occasion, but the Verizon Connect car is getting closer and closer. Yeah, that's that unloaded left rear tyre, and then he snatches the right tyre as well. But as you're braking into Beckett's there, you're braking through the left-hander at Maggots, and that means the left-hand side of the car is unweighted, and it's very easy to snatch a wheel and send yourself straight on wide into the corner. Howard, though, has regrouped, actually, and was only a 10th or so slower than Fuller that time around. So, as he makes his way, slower than Crocker, I beg your pardon. So as they make their way back through Copse Corner, the Civics are still fairly close together. Dan Lloyd, meanwhile, has now extended his lead to over 3 seconds over Aidan Moffat. Aidan, in turn, is now matching Ollie Taylor. Andreas Bachmann in 4th is still a little bit quicker than the pair of them, but he's almost got that gap down to 1 second. Not quite, though. But I still maintain that Andreas Bachmann has been one of the most impressive performances in this race so far. Back across the start-finish line, just over 8 minutes to go for Dan Lloyd. There goes Lloyd, there's Moffat in the background. Ollie Taylor is a 10th slower than him this time, in fact, and in danger of falling into the clutches of Andreas Bachmann in 4th. And it's quite a big gap back to Fuller and Crocker because of their battling that's been going on. There they are, and look how close Finlay Crocker is now. The gap was 0.6 of a second, it's now 0.2 of a second. He is right with Howard Fuller, and down in towards Beckett's. That could be a chance to attack. Crocker gets a bit sideways through Copse, though. That won't help his momentum over the crest down into the braking zone, and so he'll have to rely on maybe another mistake from Howard under braking. Does it come? No, it doesn't appear it does. He snatches the right rear brake, but that time it doesn't send him straight on into the corner. Personal best lap time that time around for Finlay Crocker, actually. That was the quickest he'd been all race. Holly Kangas is still 7th, Jess Bachmann's still 8th, Stuart Lyons is still 9th, and 4 seconds ahead of Carl Swift. So the DSG Trophy cars are 9th and 10th on the road, but there's a bit of separation between the two of them in Carl Swift's favour. In Stuart Lyons' favour. Lloyd back through Copse Corner, and that VW Golf really does look good. It looks planted, it looks settled. When you compare that to the way that Moffat's car has been handling on occasions, you can see why Lloyd has been able to build this 3-second lead. It's still the closest battle then inside the top half of the field, as Howard Fuller has now got just under half a second between himself and Finlay Crocker. But one mistake and Crocker will be there. Finlay is one of those drivers. We were talking to him yesterday, and he said qualifying isn't necessarily his thing, but racing. He loves racing. He said if he could turn up on Sunday morning, no qualifying at all, just get straight into a race situation, he would really, really enjoy that. And he's showing that now, isn't he? His racecraft is coming to the fore, and he's closer than he's ever been underneath the bridge. He looks to the inside line. Is he late enough on the brakes? Howard Fuller covers him off, snatches a break though. Does Howard make the corner? Yes, he does. But that was the first real attempt from Finlay to try to find a way past that wasn't due to an error from Howard anyway. Back across the right-hand rumble strips through Luffield, and Finlay Crocker, that Honda really does look good as well, doesn't it? All of the cars look good. They've all been beautifully prepared by the teams, be they fully fledged professional outfits like West Coast Racing, or the slightly smaller outfits, the Essex and Kent Motorsport outfit, for example, of Lewis Kent. All of the cars are produced equally professionally, and the teams being run equally professionally, and that's the great thing about TCR. 5-second time penalty for Carl Swift. So Carl Swift, who I mentioned was fighting back after that early spin, has been given a 5-second time penalty for exceeding the track limits. Now he's in 10th place. That 5-second penalty at the moment would demote him to 11th behind Lewis Kent, but that may well change before the end of the race. Exceeding track limits, essentially if you cross a white line, then you are deemed to be exceeding the track limits. You can use the curbs, but you can't go over the outside of the curbs, and particularly through Copse Corner, the drivers tend to try and use as much of the runoff area as possible to keep the speed up out of the turn. But if you do it too much, you will be given time penalties added onto your race. So we're now into the final 5 minutes of the race, and it looks as though the lead positions are reasonably settled. It's not quite over. There's Carl Swift making his way out of Luffield and Woodcote. Lewis Kent behind him now. Lewis Kent was 4.8 seconds behind him if he can stay within 5 seconds, then he'll get gifted that position essentially at the end of the race. And he's just about within 5 seconds, 4.94 seconds behind. So as long as he keeps that gap less than 5 seconds, he will inherit that position. Hang on, car number 8, Finley Crocker, has now been given a 5-second penalty as well. So Finley Crocker, who we've been documenting battling here with Howard Fuller, he's been given a time penalty too. So car number 8, Finley Crocker, with a 5-second time penalty again for exceeding track limits. You can do it once and you get a warning. After that, you will be given time penalties. So they have been warned. The rule's been in place for several seasons now, and Finley unfortunately has found himself on the receiving end of a 5-second penalty. So whilst they're still close together on the track, on corrected times, Finley is about 5 seconds behind Howard Fuller. There's Carl Swift again. So this is the first of our 2 drivers being given a time penalty, and he's the one trying to hang on to a top 10 position, of course, worth several more points than if he slips down to 11th. And in fact, he's now pulled a 5-second lead over Kent. So as things stand, Carl Swift is 10th on the road and 10th on corrected times. Now this is Howard Fuller defending from Finley Crocker, who's now trying the outside line through Brooklands. If he goes around the outside here, he gets the inside for Luffield, but that matters little because Howard Fuller runs out wide. A switchback manoeuvre is executed by Crocker. He's back on the outside. Fuller shows him the edge of the road. Is there a gap back up the inside? No. Brilliant defensive driving from Howard Fuller, who will not necessarily know that Finley's been given a time penalty. So as far as Howard's concerned, he's defending like for all he's worth to try and hold on to the position here, and that's good news for us because it means the battle will continue over these final few laps. Back through Copse Corner they go, down towards Beckett's. This is what set that up. Fuller ran a bit deep. Crocker saw half a chance up the inside, made it a full chance, and sort of eased Howard Fuller out wide. That's why they were side by side. Back at the same corner again the next time round, the same thing nearly happens again. Finley Crocker is looking really racy here. He doesn't seem to care all that much that he's been given a time penalty. He's just out there to enjoy himself and try to find a way past the car of Howard Fuller. These cars both being run out of the same stable, both drivers receiving advice from double German TCR champion Jos Files, who's here this weekend. He's been helping both of these drivers out, and Ollie Taylor as well in the other of the Hondas. And I think they've all benefited from that hugely because their pace has really improved as the weekend's gone on. Right, we're into the final 2 minutes, would you believe, of the first round of the championship, and Dan Lloyd still has this healthy 2.3 second lead. I think he's just backed the pace off ever so slightly over the last lap or so, but Aidan Moffat is not likely to catch him. Aidan in turn is 2.8 seconds clear now of Ollie Taylor, who's 1.7 ahead of Andreas Bachmann. So this is the battle on the track at least, pending that time penalty for Crocker. 1.5 minutes still to go. So Crocker, in a way, it doesn't really matter whether he gets past Howard Fuller. He's still going to finish 6th. But that's not the point. The principle matters to Finley. He wants to get ahead on the track if he can. Selling the dummy here. Is he going from the outside back to the inside? No, he's not quite close enough as Dan Lloyd comes through meanwhile to start his penultimate lap. So 2 laps remain in the inaugural round of the TCR UK Championship. I think we can all agree the racing has been phenomenal. The fuel filler cap has come open on Finley Crocker's car, I noticed there, as it comes through. Whether that's as a result of the contact he had earlier on, I don't know, but I'm sure that won't be concerning him too much. Dan Lloyd makes his way back out of Beckett's. Moffat still second. Third and fourth is not over yet, by the way. Ollie Taylor is being caught again by Andreas Bachmann. Andreas is running out of time, but he was 0.6 or 0.5 of a second quicker than Taylor on the previous lap. So there is time potentially for Andreas Bachmann to close in on 3rd place. 1 more lap to go, though, for Dan Lloyd at the end of this one. It's been a brilliantly measured performance. It all began right at the start. He got the launch off the line. He beat Moffat into the first corner, and although Aidan applied the pressure over the first few laps, he wasn't able to find a way past the VW, and Dan has been able to build up this comfortable margin all race long. Here's the fight for 3rd, though, and the gap comes down by 0.8 of a second. So is Ollie Taylor running into tyre trouble here, I wonder? Andreas Bachmann senses an opportunity to jump onto the podium podium. That would be just the start to his season that he wanted, but he's running out of opportunities. Beckett's is one, but he's not quite close enough. It's all about getting a good run out of here, get the momentum down the back straight. That will help him. Ollie Taylor misses the apex. That will hurt his speed onto the Wellington straight. This battle's going to run right the way down to the line, I think. Oliver Taylor versus Andreas Bachmann, and the VW looking to try and jump onto the podium. There's one VW that's already on the podium, though, and it looks as though its driver is set to head onto the top step of the podium. Aidan Moffat has been given a 5-second time penalty. We'll come to that in a moment, but Dan Lloyd is going to come through to make history. Daniel Lloyd is the winner of the first ever race in the TCR UK Championship. He is elated with that. Now, Aidan Moffat is second on the road. Is he second on corrected times? Let's find out. No, he is not. Aidan Moffat is fourth on corrected times. Ollie Taylor is second. Andreas Bachmann is third. And Moffat down to fourth. This is the fight for fifth on the road between Fuller and Crocker. This one isn't over yet, but I think Howard Fuller should just about be able to hang on. So Fuller will be fifth. Crocker will be sixth. But again, remember, he has a 5-second penalty as well. Has he managed to stay 5 seconds ahead of Ollie Kangas? Yes, he has. So Kangas is 7th, Jessica Bachmann is 8th, Stuart Lyons will be 9th, and it looks as though Carl Swift will hang on to 10th. Well, drama right down to the end. I didn't see what the reason for the 5-second penalty for Moffat was. We can assume probably track limits, but that has a big effect on his result from 2nd down to 4th position for Aidan Moffat. So Dan Lloyd wins, but that man there, he may not even know yet, but when he finds out, he will not be particularly pleased. So Aidan looked really comfortable in that second place all race long. Didn't have the pace of Daniel Lloyd, but he was looking good for some good points for second place. As a result of that penalty, though, that will not happen. So, drama aplenty. The difference in points, by the way, a race win is worth 40 points, second place is worth 35, so Moffat was going to score 35 points for second place, he now scores 25 points, so it's a 10-point difference that makes for Aidan Moffat. That could prove crucial come the end of the season at Donington Park. So the cars make their way down the pit lane, and that was the first round of TCR UK, and that was breathless stuff from start to finish. Daniel Lloyd is our first ever winner. VW Golf makes its way to the top step of the podium in round 1. Oliver Taylor will be delighted with second place, and Andreas Bachmann on the podium in 3rd. Aidan Moffat 4th, Howard Fuller 5th, Finley Crocker 6th, Ollie Kangas 7th, Jessica Bachmann 8th, not Bachmann 8th, Stuart Lyons 9th, and Carl Swift 10th. So Stuart Lyons wins the DSG trophy. So that's important for Stuart. He will be very happy with that, actually. He didn't necessarily expect that to be the case. So the cars are making their way down into the pit lane, and I believe that Bryn is ready and waiting to speak to possibly a few slightly surprised drivers, Bryn.
Yeah, thanks very much, Andy. Dan, the first ever TCR UK winner. How about that?
Yeah, awesome. Really over the moon with that. It was a tough race. It's always hard around here. It's a long race as well. I think 32 laps or something. So, you know, did a good job at the start and got a little bit of a gap, and then just controlled the pace from there. And looking after the tyres, the tyre deg's big around here, so not making any mistakes, so all good.
Well, looking behind us here, we thought it was going to be a certain Mr. Moffat here, but it's not. We can see Andreas Bachmann behind you, something you weren't aware of, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they're really strict with track limits in the UK. It's different to in Europe, and I could see I was keeping it really safe all the time. I could see in my mirrors Moffat wasn't. I was thinking, what's going to happen, but I just kept it safe, and yeah, so really happy for my teammate. He's really quick all weekend and not so good qualifying yesterday, so it's good to have a good result.
Was it hard for you to keep an eye on Aidan with what he was doing and just concentrate on what you were up to, or could you kind of have that in the back of your mind that maybe he's pushing too hard?
You're always looking in your mirrors, you know, maintaining a gap, looking after the tyres, but at the same time when I'm keeping it safe and he's going off, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should start pushing, but you got to be careful. You can't get trapped into doing something someone else is doing.
So has it sunk in any way, shape or form that you've just made history?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's over the moon. You know, it was a last-minute deal to do this. At the minute, we're only doing this round, but we're working really hard to get out for the full season. West Coast Racing have done an awesome job. It's the first weekend I've been with this team. and couldn't fault them for any way whatsoever, so really happy.
Well done, Dan, well done. Join the podium. Now let's go over here and find Andreas. Andreas, hello Andreas. Now that was unusual because we didn't expect to see you here in second place, but here you are.
Yeah, it was, I finished fourth, but apparently the driver in front of me he got a penalty, so it was great.
Yeah, well done, well done. Join the podium there, but well done to you as well. Now let's run over, sorry, third place there for Andreas Bachmann, I should have said. And let me run over here and find Ollie Taylor, second place for you. That was remarkable. I just said to Andreas he finished second. My brain's all over the place, but that was to do with a lot of track limit issues. You, pretty safe, 5th to 2nd.
Yeah, pleased with that, and didn't actually know we got second until the in-lap. I thought first race on the podium would take those points. That was great, but yeah, as we was cooling down, heard that Aidan had got the track limits, I believe, track limits penalty. I kept my eye on the board though. I didn't see many 16s, but yeah, we'll take that.
Now I saw you rush straight over to Josh Files, who's been helping you the whole time, giving you advice. What did he say to you?
Perfect job. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, there was a lot of unknowns for that race, and I think that went really to plan. Happy with the car. Tyre life was always going to be a little bit of an unknown, so I was pleased with that. How we managed to make that last. Yeah, good, clean racing. It was fun.
Well, you better go to the podium and then do it all again in just a bit.
Not long to go. Yeah, thanks very much.
Well done there to Ollie Taylor. We'll leave it right now up to the podium, but for me here with the drivers, it is back over to Andy.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Well, what a start to the 2018 TCR UK Championship. I think that showed everyone just what this championship is all about. Great racing throughout and some great stories to follow up on. Don't forget race 2 later on as well will feature a reversed grid based upon the second fastest qualified times, but we'll tell you more about that in the build up to that race. But reverse grid tin top races are always exciting. So the drivers will now be making their way up towards the podium, and it's not the podium that many people would have predicted, I don't think, before the start of the race. Here's highlights of what happened, if you can remember any of this, because there was so much going on earlier on. Dan Lloyd got the lead and led throughout, but that was about the only simple thing about the race. Andreas Beckmann was the real star of the show earlier on, carving his way through from 8th on the grid. A lucky moment there for Lewis Kent as he narrowly avoided the rotating Carl Swift, who went straight off onto the runoff area. Howard Fuller was looking racy early on as well, making progress up the order, whilst Lewis Kent's race started to fade away. Near contact with Ollie Kangas didn't help Lewis, and then contact with Darrell Wilson tipped the Vauxhall driver into the gravel and into retirement. Jessica Bachmann was also getting stuck into the fun, with Derek Palmer Jr. not far behind her until Derek ran into mechanical dramas. Towards the end of the race, all the talk was about Finlay Crocker versus Howard Fuller. The battle was raging fully right to the flag, despite the fact that Finlay was given a late 5-second time penalty for track limits. Dan Lloyd it was, though, that came across a victor in round number 1 of the TCR UK Championship. The West Coast Racing team getting 2 cars on the podium. Not a bad start to their season.
Okay, go. You go.
So we are waiting then for drivers to appear up on the podium. It will be an elated group of drivers, I'm sure. Dan Lloyd, Oliver Taylor and Andreas Bachmann will soon be up there. And there is Andreas Bachmann, our 3rd placed finisher. And he will be, well, I think he's as shocked as everyone else is at just how competitive that race was and just how much was going on. But he's very happy indeed to have that 3rd place trophy. Holds it aloft for everyone to see. Next in will be Oliver Taylor, who makes his way through, or will do very shortly, for finishing in 2nd position. There is Oliver. And as Bryn alluded to, he made good progress from 5th on the grid to finish in 2nd position. He will be looking to try and do similar in race 2 later on. But the man that everybody will be talking about, the history maker here at Silverstone, the first ever winner of the TCR UK Championship race, is Dan Lloyd. And Dan Lloyd punches the air with delight. I think he's quite pleased with that. Handshakes all round with Andreas and with Ollie. He gets the winner's cap, he gets the winner's trophy, and he gets that lovely, lovely 40 points. Maximum points so far, of course, for Dan, because he scored the 11 points for qualifying on pole position, 40 points for a race victory, and with Aidan Moffat finishing down in 4th, that gives him quite a handy early championship lead. So the celebrations going on atop the podium. Dan Lloyd standing up on the top step of the podium with all three of them, and I believe they will have a champagne moment in a moment or so.
One down for me as well, guys.
So,
one down for me.
waiting for there is Dan Boyd. Brilliant stuff from all three of them. And if that's the podium for race 1, well, who dares to try and predict the podium for race 2? We've been saying all along that no one really knew who the pace setters were going to be. No one really knew who was going to be up there. But that is exactly what we were hoping to see. Brilliant start to the season for TCR UK. Race 2 later on will be equally as exciting.
Congratulations to Dan, he drove a brilliant race.
so we're pre-recording this, yeah.
And noticeable up at Beckett's where I was commentating, that your rear tyre was locking a lot more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you'll have a...
Welcome back then to Silverstone, where the third and final race of the weekend for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup is about to get underway. The green flag lap is about to begin, so I'll rattle through the grid. It's a partially reversed grid, I believe, so it's Colin Bysouth who has the pole position, and alongside him Luke Herbert. Johnny Greensmith and James Harris are on row 2. Aidan Hills, one of the stars of the earlier race today, and James Blake Baldwin, another one of the stars, is on row 3. Jack Harding, our race 2 winner, is next in line. Then we have Sam Tatler and Christian White, row 6, row 7, Alex King and Darren Stapleton. Row 8, Steve Robertson, Jeremy Crook. Then George Grant, Alec Livesley, Tom Parker and Gary Townsend. Alex Miller and Jack Sycamore are next. Then Nick Boone and Jeff Gurrier. Xavier Brook and Mark Swarbrick are next in line ahead of Nick Rutter, Will Sharp, Ian McDonald and our race 1 winner, Will Stacey. Then it's Richard Wickland, James Kell, Aldo Ritty, Ashley Boyles and Nick Dunn rounding out the field. Now the reason that doesn't look anything like the grid we were expecting is because there were several amendments after the earlier race. So on the road, Luke Herbert won the race at a bit of a canter. However, there have been several time penalties issued for, guess what, exceeding the track limits, and so we believe there have been a few amended results, and quite what the outcome of all of that was we're still not entirely sure, but either way we have a grid and we have another 20 minutes of Mazda MX-5 SuperCup racing about to get underway. So Colin Bysouth on pole position, never won a Mazda MX-5 SuperCup race. Alongside him will be Luke Herbert, and Luke Herbert has won plenty of Mazda MX-5 SuperCup races. He won the championship last year, and he's had a bit of a trying weekend because Luke Herbert was due to start on pole position for race 1 yesterday, had an issue on the outlap to the grid, had to start from the back, carved his way through to eventually finish in 8th position. Then race 2 came along, looked like he'd won it on the road, only to be given a time penalty, which of course has changed things around again. So Luke Herbert, I feel, will have a bit of a point to prove in this one as he tries to finally get that number 1 car back onto the top step of the podium where he will feel it belongs. Colin Bysouth, he'll be keen to take his moment in the spotlight here from pole position. James Blake Baldwin. It's not often we get that excited on a green flag lap, but that was very close to losing it. That's how important it is to try and get some heat into the rear tyres. I interrupted myself then. So it's going to be interesting to see how Colin Bysouth fares at the front of the field. Jonathan Greensmith, who will line up 3rd. He had a strong 3rd place finish in race 1 yesterday, but then race 2 didn't quite go to plan. We've got some others working their way through. Jack Harding and Aidan Hills in particular. James Blake Baldwin also. They were all up at the front on the podium in race number 1. And keep an eye on Will Stacey. If we've got, I don't know whether we've got Will Stacey out there, but Will Stacey, due to pilot the 192 car, as I said, he won race 1, drifted back a little bit at the start of race 2, and then going down into Beckett's late on in the race, we believe had a complete brake failure and clattered straight into the side of Richard Wickland's car. Now that's Gary Townsend, I believe, yeah. Gary Townsend, who's heading back into the paddock, so he is definitely not going to take the start. But Will Stacey and Richard Wickland was a fairly sizable shunt in race 1. Nobody's fault, just a brake failure for Will. Both drivers were absolutely fine, but whether the teams have been able to repair the cars in the meantime and get them back out of the grid for this one, we don't know. So we'll try to pick those 2 out for you. Richard Wickland, the grey number 76 car, and Will Stacey, the blue number 192. And we'll see whether either of those have been able to make it out. At the front of the grid though, Colin Bysouth, car number 11, the sort of zebra livery car on the right hand side of the road, the reigning champion Luke Herbert lining up alongside him. The green flag is waved at the back. I don't see Will Stacey or Richard Wickland, unfortunately, so it looks as though they may be non-starters, but we've still got a busy grid of Mazdas, and their final 20-minute race of the weekend is underway now. Who makes the best start from the front row of the grid? Looks fairly even, but you put your money on Herbert. Yes, Herbert gets the lead down towards Copse Corner for the first time, so the reigning champion looking. Car number 1 leads the way. James Harris is second. Jonathan Greensmith slotting through into third, and he'll be really keen to get past Colin Bysout quickly. And Aidan Hills with a rocket ship start from way back towards the back end of the top 10 is 4th already. James Blake Baldwin is 5th, and James Harris there in 6th place. Blake Baldwin up the inside of Aidan Hills there. Now these two had a bit of a disagreement in race 2 at this very corner, in fact, where James wasn't particularly pleased with the way in which he was overtaken by Aidan, and made that abundantly clear through various hand gestures down the Wellington straight, and those two have resumed battle straight away here in race number 3. But it is going to be the reigning champion that leads the way. It's all shuffling behind though. Greensmith's coming through into 2nd place. Is he going around the outside there of By-South through Brooklands? Gives him the inside for Luffield, nicely done, and that might open the door for the cars behind to come through his way. Blake Baldwin up the inside of By-South just eases the door open. A little bit of blue paint gets transferred onto that black and white livery of Colin By-South's car, and it looks like he's going to get through into 3rd place here, James Blake Baldwin, I think. By-South fighting back though, and yes, James gesturing for Aidan Hills to push him. Bump drafting, literally pushing each other down the straights, is not uncommon in Mazda MX-5 racing, and he gets the shove from Aidan Hills, but Aidan is not going to get through with him. So up into 3rd position goes James Blake Baldwin, but Aidan Hills is only now making the move for 4th. He prizes the door open on the run down towards Beckett. He'll be late on the brakes, and Aidan Hills, you would imagine, will move through into 4th position here. There's a gap for By-South to slot back in line if he wants to. Aidan Hills is not afraid to push another driver right out to the edge of the track. There's a bit more paint traded as the crocodile wiggles from left to right down the back straight, trying to break the toe. I thought, to be honest, that Luke Herbert might be able to pull a gap here, but Jonathan Greensmith is up for this, and the former Mazda MX-5 champion is starting to close him down again. There goes Jack Harding up the inside of James Harris. Jack Harding in the white and blue car makes his way up through Brooklands and Luffield. And Colin By-South, as we may have predicted, is just starting to slip further down the top 10, but it's important for the likes of Aidan Hills and Jack Harding to really make their way past him as quickly as they possibly can. There's James Harris, the black and green number 37 car, but up front the battle for 2nd place starting to hot up. Look, we've got Johnny Greensmith defending now from James Blake Baldwin, and this is what happened in race 1. Herbert got the lead, in that case from pole position, and then as they started fighting behind him, he was able to pull out a gap. Now okay, it didn't quite translate into a race victory that time, but that's the plan again today. Here's a replay of the start. You can see it was a clean getaway there from Herbert. He won the race down into Copse Corner, with Johnny Greensmith slotting into 3rd behind Colin By-South. This was through Beckett as well. The rest of the field just starting to stream back through, but the leaders make their way down the Wellington straight, and Greensmith and Blake Baldwin are starting to reel Luke Herbert in again with that slipstream effect down the long straight. Jack Harding makes a big dive up the inside of Aidan Hills. That was a really lovely lunge, and it moves him through into 5th position, so Hills down to 6th. Then James Harris is dicing away with Carl Garnett, I believe that is. Yeah, Carl Garnett, who really started to show some good pace towards the back end of 2017, and he's, luckily it seems, translated that through to the start of this season. James Blake Baldwin on our screen there, the blue car with the orange flashes, set the fastest lap of the race last time around. Every driver in the top 5 sets the fastest lap this time, and eventually settles with the 5th place car, Jack Harding. So Jack Harding now the fastest car on the track, but all of the top 8 cars lapping within a tenth or so of each other. This is the joy of Mazda MX-5 racing, though. It's so close, there's nothing to choose between the cars, and with such strength in depth in the field again this year, the racing quality has been high from the word go, and that was a brilliant move made there by James Blake Baldwin up the inside of Jonathan Greensmith. He is now, look at that, gesturing furiously, work with me, don't try and race me, push me down the straights, and we can catch Luke Herbert. If we don't work together, Luke is liable to pull off into the distance and we'll never see him again. So James Blake Baldwin, always an exciting driver to watch, because he's always in the thick of the battles, but he's always very keen to let all of the other drivers around him know what he wants them to do, and that's because he knows Mazda MX-5 racing better than most. He knows what it takes to win. There's his stepbrother Simon Baldwin, who had a spin on lap 1 in race 1. That's the other blue and orange car, had a spin up at Beckett's in race 1 and fought his way right the way back up to, well, he was 13th or so on the road. That then was elevated possibly through some other people getting penalties, but he's on the tail end of the top 10 in 9th place. Rounding out the top 10 at the moment is car number 62, which is William Stephenson, who's just a little bit off the back of this leading group. having said earlier on that I thought Colin Bysouth might start to fall down the order, I've done him a disservice. I must apologise, because he's actually holding on to that 4th place quite nicely, isn't he? And he's staying in touch with the leaders. Only a second off the lead is Colin in 4th position. This is Carl Garnett. He has now found a way past James Harris, so that's for 7th, but that's just allowed the top 6 cars to break away. So the breakaway group at the front: Luke Herbert, James Blake Baldwin, Jonathan Greensmith, Colin Bysouth, Jack Harding and Aidan Hills. They are the 6 drivers who are looking to try and contest the podium positions between themselves. They're all nose to tail, and now it's a case of trying to dislodge Luke Herbert from the top position, because you can see that he has just got that couple of car lengths extra advantage over the rest of the field. They are doing their best to work together, I believe, to close in on him, but whether they'll be able to make that work, we'll have to wait and see. Nearly 6 minutes have gone by in this 20-minute race. Final outing for the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup this weekend here at Silverstone. They never failed to put on a show, and that's certainly been the case this weekend, both in the damp conditions yesterday and the more favourable conditions this weekend. Nice battle going through here. That is car number 66, which is Sam Tatler, and he is racing away with Christian White. Now, Christian White, car number 28, a former champion in Toyota MR2 racing, and he's made the step over into the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup this year. So this is his first ever weekend racing with the championship, and he's running in 13th place and looking to get 12th place away from Sam Tatler. So good stuff that from Christian White. Leaders, meanwhile, are back down towards Brooklands, and Blake Baldwin, for the first time, is forcing the race leader Luke Herbert to just drive down the middle of the road there into the braking zone at Brooklands, forcing him to think defensively. The more he defends, the less chance he has of pulling out a bit of a gap. Back through Luffield they go, and Colin Bysouth, well, look at this, Colin Bysouth going for 3rd place, looking up the inside. Oh, he gets put onto the grass through Woodcote. Jonathan Greensmith was having none of that, and that really hurt the momentum of Colin Bysouth, and that could allow Jack Harding through. The leaders weaving this way and that way, and Blake Baldwin looks on the inside into Copse Corner. No, not quite close enough, but I don't think he was best pleased with Luke Herbert running him down towards the pit wall then across the start-finish line. Right, how's this all shaken out? This is a replay, first of all, of Greensmith versus Bysouth. Greensmith coming across to try and defend, but Bysouth was there. Colin was alongside and ended up on the grass, lifted off the throttle, and so Jack Harding has gone through into 4th place. Oh, problem for Luke Herbert. Luke Herbert, the race leader. Was that a missed gear, or is that something a bit more sinister? Remember, he had mechanical issues yesterday, and Luke Herbert's car did not accelerate out of Beckett. It seems to be speeding up now, but it's killed his momentum. So now the race is turned on its head. Blake Baldwin leads, Greensmith is 2nd, Jack Harding is 3rd, and then it's side by side for 4th place there between Luke Herbert and Colin Bysouth, and Colin Bysouth is into the back of Jack Harding. He could get another place out of all of this, but Colin Bysouth is not afraid to get stuck in with some of the expected championship contenders. There's more gesturing from drivers in this pack, but that has really hurt Luke Herbert. Luke Herbert, who was leading the race reasonably comfortably up to this point, now crosses the line in 5th. It looked suspiciously like a missed gear. The car just didn't accelerate out of Beckett's, but now it's fully up to speed again, and Luke will be furious. He'll be determined to get back up there. He will not want another race to slip by. See, the car wasn't quick through Beckett's. That's why everyone was running into each other, because they were expecting Luke to accelerate normally out of the corner, and he didn't. Luke already starting the fight back, though. Look up the inside of Colin Bysouth. This will be for 4th place. Aidan Hills is there, keen to try and buy into all of this as well if he can. There's trim hanging off the back of Colin Bysouth's car. That car looked immaculate at the start of the race. It's not quite in showroom condition now, is it? As the leaders weave this way and that way very aggressively, trying to break the slipstream. They fan out under braking. Jack Harding looks to the inside. Greensmith looks to the inside. In the end, Blake Baldwin holds on to the lead. Herbert is up into 4th place, though, with Bysouth down to 5th. That could become 6th, though, if Aidan Hills gets up the inside of him, which he does. And Aidan Hills now making his way out of Luffield. He just eases Bysouth out wide, and now the race does start to unravel for Colin Bysouth, because Carl Garnett gets past him as well. And is that James Harris next in line? Yes, it is. He could try and launch a move down towards Copse Corner. Simon Baldwin is also now part of this group, so we have the top 9 cars, and you can throw a handkerchief over the lot of them. This is the fight for 2nd between Greensmith and Jack Harding. Oh, and off and possibly into the barriers, unfortunately, is William Sharp. So Will Sharp, one of the Masters drivers, one of the more experienced drivers in the field, and that was just a little over eager on the throttle, possibly. And did he make the barriers? Oh, yes, fairly substantially, unfortunately. And that front left corner doesn't look at a healthy angle to me. Will is now stranded on what is probably still quite wet grass. The rear-wheel drive MX-5 is going nowhere. He requires a bit of assistance from marshals. That means there will be yellow flags out of the final corner. Not down here, though, where we're heading into Brooklands, and it's all chopping and changing again. Jack Harding had a go up the inside of Jonathan Greensmith, then nearly found himself losing a position to Luke Herbert, and Carl Garnett has got himself ahead of Aidan Hills. So Carl Garnett there, the white, orange and blue number 19 car, is challenging the reigning champion around the outside. This is great stuff, just what we wanted to see. Back out through Woodcote we go. That's where the yellow flags were out, but now green flag racing again down the pit straight. And James Blake Baldwin, dare I say it, is starting to do a Luke Herbert to the field here, isn't he? He's pulling away from this fight for second place. Johnny Greensmith chopping aggressively across the nose there of Jack Harding as they went into Copse Corner. He runs a bit wide on the exit though. Has that allowed Harding up the inside? No, they're three abreast for third. Harding on the inside, Garnett on the outside, and Luke Herbert threads the middle. He's going to gain one place out of this, is he? Yes. Beautiful driving that from Luke Herbert. He somehow found a gap in the traffic where they're all holding each other up on the exit of the corner. Aidan Hills will get back alongside him. Do you remember what I said early on about how the drivers maybe ought to work together? I don't think that's what's happening here. They are side by side again down the Wellington straight. Greensmith second. Who's going to be third? That's Harding. Fourth is still up for discussion because they're three abreast again. Colin Bysouth won't die, will he? He's determined to get back into this fight, but he just gets eased out a bit wide. So Hills goes fourth. Garnett looking now for fifth up the inside of Luke Herbert, who's thinking, I didn't have things this difficult last year, did I? I think Luke is in for a very, very challenging title defence in 2018. He's racing against drivers that he didn't necessarily see all that much of last season, but that's just what we want to see, the progression of drivers as they get more experience in the championship, more experience of the cars, and they work their way further and further towards the front and start fighting the established Mazda MX-5 names. Back out of Copse we go. 1 second is now the lead for Blake Baldwin, so he's broken the toe. This is for second place. Greensmith, Harding, Hills, they're the three cars in shot, with Carl Garnett just behind with Luke Herbert up the inside of him. So Herbert going up the inside of Carl Garnett. He is taking no prisoners. He shows Carl Garnett where the edge of the road is. He pushes Carl Garnett over the edge of the road, and that might just be enough to allow him through. Crocodile weaves again underneath the bridge. How long's left in this race? Not long enough, probably. 7 3/4 minutes still to go. And Jack Harding throws one up the inside at the last second. That was always optimistic, I think. And in the end, he has to settle for third. Hills fourth, Herbert fifth. Garnett and Bysouth are side by side again now for sixth. And it looks like Colin on the inside line is going to get that place, is he? Carl Garnett, though, uses all of the road on the exit of the corner and maybe gets himself back through. Now, Luke Herbert up the inside of Aidan Hills. This is, I believe, for fourth place. It's all chopping and changing so quickly, it's hard to keep up. But yes, for fourth place, it's Herbert and Hills side by side. And it looks as though the number one car, yes, goes through. And Colin Bysouth now joins in the fun as well, gets up the inside of Aidan Hills. They'll both be a bit slow off the corner as a result. So Carl Garnett, Simon Baldwin, James Harris, they'll all gang up on them down towards Beckett. Herbert's fight back continues now as he gets himself alongside Jack Harding in towards the right hand. Watch out for Aidan Hills, who was coming in at unabated speed there, just about got it slowed down. It's Carl Garnett that's losing out though, because look, Colin Bysouth, Simon Baldwin and now James Harris are all going past him. So unfortunately, Carl Garnett, who had a brief spell in the middle of the race where he was fighting for a podium position, things are just starting to unravel slightly. Down in towards Brooklands we go, still over a quarter of the race to go, and the positions at the front of the field are far from settled, and it looks as though Greensmith, well, Harding and Herbert and Greensmith all, in theory, should be fairly equally matched performance-wise. This should be a really interesting battle, but it is allowing Blake Baldwin to pull away. He did have a 1.4 second lead, did the race leader, this time through. The gap stays at 1.4 seconds, but it might be about to increase, because look at this for second place. Johnny Greensmith is driving ultra defensively, and that's going to hurt Jack Harding, because Luke Herbert comes storming around the outside of him through Copse Corner, and he'll have the momentum down to Beckett's. The trouble is, he's on the outside line. Is there a gap in the inside? Yes, there is. So Herbert goes through, and Aidan Hills now tries to take fourth place away from Jack Harding. Round the outside, round the outside. Oh, Harding slithers out wide, shuffles Aidan Hills out wide with him, and Simon Baldwin, looking to try and get both of the Baldwin brothers onto the podium. That would be something. I don't believe that's ever happened before. We'll have to try and find that out for you, but Simon Baldwin is absolutely flying here. He's gone to the outside line where no one else has. Luke Herbert goes to the outside now, gets into the back of Johnny Greensmith slightly. How does this one settle itself out? Greensmith second, Herbert third, Harding fourth, and fifth place for Simon Baldwin. So Aidan Hills is now the one slipping backwards into sixth. Then it's Garnett with Bysouth and James Harris side by side, and Herbert's up the inside of Johnny Greensmith. This is for second place. Luke Herbert, well, this is fantastic stuff from Luke, and if he gets into second place, there's every chance he could still catch the race leader. Down towards Copse Corner they go. He's on the inside. We've got Greensmith on the outside. Jack Harding's trying to follow him through, and does. So 2 places lost for Johnny Greensmith, who goes down from second to fourth place. Breathless stuff as ever it is in the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup, and it ain't over yet, because Luke Herbert will now have his sights set firmly on the number 4 car up the road. 2 seconds is the advantage between Blake Baldwin and Herbert, so over the next few laps we'll watch the lap times with interest to see whether they can catch the race leader, and maybe Luke Herbert can get that race victory that he's been knocking on the door of all weekend long. There is the race leader, Blake Baldwin. There is Herbert. Defensive line there being taken by Jack Harding to try to keep Johnny Greensmith at bay. Will it work? Possibly. Greensmith's going to be forced to the outside line, and indeed decides that maybe wasn't the best place to be. Then it's Simon Baldwin, Aidan Hills, Carl Garnett, and everybody else filing in behind. Apart from maybe the odd bit of paint being traded and loosened bodywork earlier on, this has been thrilling racing, but more or less hard but fair, I would say. Carl Garnett up the inside of Aidan Hills now, coming across the start-finish line, so this will be for 6th position. The orange and white car on the inside line, I think, will go through as they make their way back through Copse. Right, this is a battle going on a bit further back. Number 93 is John Stack, so this is outside the top 20. 53 is either Stephen or Ashley Boyles. They're sharing that car this weekend. I believe that's a father-son combo. And number 91, Jack Sycamore, who we saw off the track in race 1. And as we documented in race 1, wherever you are in the field, there's someone to play with, and it doesn't matter whether you're fighting for a win or fighting for 25th place, there will always be action, and that's why the spectators love watching the championship and the drivers love competing in it. Here's this battle for 3rd place again. Jack Harding defending that position. Oh, from Johnny Greensmith, and Jack just caught the curb a bit too hard on the inside there, and it nearly spat the car around. Just under 3 minutes still to go. Colin Bysouth and James Harris there side by side again, coming out of Lovefield Corner. Will be James Harris who hangs on to the position. Fastest lap, incidentally, was set by Jack Harding earlier on. That's worth a point. He set that well back on lap 3. Is the lead gap coming down? Answer, yes, significantly. It came down by half a second that last time around. So James Blake Baldwin does not have this in the bag yet. If Luke Herbert can get another few tenths of a second closer, he'll pick up a slipstream, and not only will he catch the race lead, but everyone else will as well. So buckle up, because this is another grandstand finish coming up here, I believe. I thought that Luke Herbert would feel he had a point to prove here. He will feel that he's lost 2 golden opportunities to win races this weekend, and he's damned if he's going to let another one slip away here. Down the back straight we go. We've got 2 minutes to go, so 2 more laps, I think, after this one. Can Luke Herbert or anybody else do this and find a way past James Blake Baldwin, who equally had a difficult start to the weekend with a poor qualifying session yesterday, which meant that he started outside of the top 10 for the first 2 races. He raced his way back into contention in both races, but this time he's got a genuine shot at the win. I'd say that gap is coming down, though. Let's see, the gap was 1.3 seconds between the top 2, and as we come through to complete lap number 16, what does the timing screen tell us? It's come down by another 7 tenths, 6 tenths of a second the gap. So now Luke Herbert has 2 laps to use the slipstream and try to find a way back through into the race lead. After that issue that he had down at Beckett's earlier on, if he could find his way back onto the top step of the podium, that would be just the fairy tale ending he was hoping for. Down in towards Beckett's, it's exactly the thing that James Blake Baldwin is hoping doesn't happen, of course, but there's nothing he can do. Herbert has the tow now, and really all that Blake Baldwin can can do is prepare himself for the onslaught. He's got Harding and Greensmith coming with him as well. He weaves to the right, tries to break the toe. He weaves back to the left again, trying to break the toe. Herbert keeps the car in a straight line. He's going to be on the brakes as late as possible, and he is with the race leader again. Luke Herbert is back with James Blake Baldwin, and this is going to be a 4-car fight for the podium places as we are about to begin the final lap of the day for the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. This is what we love about this championship. They provide this sort of action week in, week out, and the Silverstone National layout lends itself perfectly to Mazda MX-5 racing. Across the line they come. One more lap to go, and James Blake Baldwin is going to have to defend down towards Copse Corner. To the outside line goes Luke Herbert. He's going to try and get as much speed out. No, he goes round the outside. Luke Herbert goes right around the outside. Blake Baldwin did not see that coming. Where does Jack Harding go in all of this? This could be crucial. He goes with Blake Baldwin, gives him a push down towards Beckett, so James will hold on to the lead. Can Herbert hang on to second place? That now becomes the question. The answer is no. Harding goes through. He's going to get a good run out of the corner as well. So all of a sudden it's Jack Harding, maybe, who could become the biggest challenger to James Blake Baldwin. Luke Herbert fights back again though, down the Wellington Straight, wheel to wheel for second place. Any one of 4 drivers could still win this remarkable race, but it is James Blake Baldwin who leads with 3 corners to go. He gets into Brooklands just about in the lead, does he? Runs a bit wide. Harding on the inside. There's almost a bit of contact, but Blake Baldwin hangs on. More paint is traded. Herbert gets through into second position, and it looks like Harding could even find himself falling off the podium. What a race this has been, and it's all about the run to the checkered flag, because Luke Herbert was quicker out of the final turn than Blake Baldwin. I don't think he's quite going to get there, is he? No, James Blake Baldwin wins the 3rd race of the weekend for the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup by 1/10 of a second. Luke Herbert is 2nd, Jack Harding is 3rd, Johnny Greensmith is 4th, Carl Garnett gets into the top 5 with Aidan Hill 6th, Simon Baldwin 7th, then James Harris, Colin Bysouth, and Steve Roberts gets himself another top 10 position. That wasn't bad at all. That was not bad at all. Fantastic racing from all concerned. James Blake Baldwin, well, what must he have been thinking when he saw Luke Herbert get back through into second place, and he saw that gap coming down by 6 or 7 tenths of a second a lap? He must have wondered whether he'd be able to hang on, but he did, and he takes the race victory, which means we've had 3 different race winners from the first 3 races of the season. And the good news is this lot are on the TCR UK package for the full season, so we get to enjoy this all year long. Brilliant stuff. James Blake Baldwin, former champion of the series back in 2016, if memory serves, and he knows a thing or two about Mazda MX-5 racing, and he had to draw upon all of his years of experience, both in these Super Cup cars and the older spec Mark 1 machinery as well. He's won championships in both, and he is really keen to build a championship challenge this year. Confirmation of the result. I'll forgive you if you didn't keep up with every positional change here in this top 10, but it is Blake Baldwin that leads. Luke Herbert 2nd, Jack Harding 3rd, from Johnny Greensmith 4th, and Carl Garnett, brilliant result, in 5th. Then it's Aidan Hills, Simon Baldwin, James Harris, Colin Bysouth, and Steve Roberts some way back in 10th, but gets himself his 2nd top 10 result of the weekend. So the cars make their way down into the pit lane. Drivers, I can see, are disembarking the cars underneath the podium, and it looks as though Bryn is ready and waiting to chat with 3 breathless drivers, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm here with James Blake Baldwin, who is just getting his gear off as we speak. That was one hell of a race, wasn't it? That was phenomenal. I mean, looking behind, this distance they are behind you right now is pretty much the distance they were the entire race.
Well, I mean, I thought I'd got a gap, and all was going well, and I was managing it, and I thought it's great. And then the tyres just started to go, and I could see Luke and Jack were so quick. So I held on by the skin of my teeth. But no, amazing. Great to go home with the win.
For us to watch, it was an incredible race. Did you get a sense of it when you were behind the wheel?
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, if it carries on all year like this, I'm going to have a few more grey hairs, I think.
It's one of those races that you kind of want the checker flag to come a little bit earlier than it did.
Yeah, about 5 minutes would have been nice. 5 minutes, but there you go.
Well done. We're leaving you to the podium right now. Let's run over here, though, and get our second place man, Luke Herbert. Luke, well, I was just saying to James that the distance here between the 2 cars now is pretty much the distance you had in that entire race. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was exciting, wasn't it? I think I dropped back to 6th at one point. After my track limits penalty this morning. I wanted to sort of have a good end to the weekend. So, you know, it's been a brilliant end to the weekend because any of us could have won that race. It was just who was in what position at, at the line. So, no, really exciting race. Yeah, really good fun.
But of course, don't want to dwell on this, but you did lose the lead though, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, that time I wasn't so lucky. I couldn't get away, so they're all in my tow. And when one comes past, they all start chaining past. But, you know, that was expected. We got back through to second, so, you know, fabulous result.
And you're happy with second?
Oh, really happy, yeah. I mean, with a field that competitive, second's like winning, so.
Well done, well done. Good stuff. Let's find our third place man down here right now. Let's really get hold of Jack. Jack, can I get you to come round here for us? So, third place for you. Happy with your afternoon?
I'd like to have gone two better. It's just so close. It took me a long time to get past Johnny Greensmith. He was defending really well, and that allowed James to get away. But then I managed to get past him when Luke got past me, and we sort of went through as a train. And then just like last was so close between me, James, and Luke. I'd thought I'd got second at least, and then James backed us up. Luke tried to go around the outside and turned in on me and left me nowhere to go. So bit of contact between us two, but you know, still salvaged the podium, so all good.
When you mentioned John behind you, it was 0.1 of a second there. It was so tight.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the contact with Luke, then I was on the outside for the last turn. Johnny got a run on the inside, but he was nice enough and didn't force me off the track. So yeah, close finish, but at least we got the podium.
Right, Jack Harding, well done.
Thank you very much.
What was another incredibly exciting Mazda MX-5 Super Cup race. The racing was like this from the moment the red lights went out to the moment the checkered flag flew, and we had multiple different leaders, but it did look as though Luke Herbert, having got out in front, might be able to repeat his race 2 performance and pull off into the distance. That was not to be the case, but meanwhile James Blake Baldwin, Johnny Greensmith, Colin Bysouth, Jack Harding were all fighting behind. Then a mysterious issue for the race leader Luke Herbert meant that he fell from first down to 5th place coming out of Beckett's corner. It seemed all hope of winning the race was lost. He then, though, began the fight back, first getting past Carl Garnett and then working his way onto the tail of the cars in front, taking advantage of their battling, slowing them down as well. He got past Jack Harding and then started to reel in the race leader whilst we went on to the final lap of the race with the top 3 nose to tail again. He lost second place though, but Beckett's did Herbert to Jack Harding, and that meant that he spent the rest of the lap trying to get that back, all allowing James Blake Baldwin to become the 3rd different winner from 3 races this weekend. The Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship cars are lining up on the grid ahead of their 3rd and final race of the weekend. It's been a fascinating weekend of racing for these guys, one of the top quality single-seater racing championships in the country. Here's the grid. It's a partially reversed grid based upon the result from race 2, which puts Stuart Goff on pole position alongside Jack Wolfenden alongside him. Rory Smith and Joey Foster, our race 1 winner, lined up together on row 2. Matt Round-Garrido and Michael Moyers have both been quick. They're on the 3rd row together ahead of Niall Murray and race 2 winner Luke Cooper. Michael Eastwell is 9th with Nico Gruber rounding out the top 10. Then it's Jamie Thorburn and Seb Melrose row 6. Row 7 Carter Williams and Jonathan Brown. Row 8 John Ferguson and Josh Fisher. Row 9 Hugo Bentley Ellis and Vincent Jay with Daniel O'Brien and Sebastian Job rounding out the top 20. Then it's David Maloney, Pascal Monbaron, James Clark, Richard Morris, Simon Fleet and James Scott Murphy ahead of George McDonald, John Svensson, Josh Smith one to watch, having had late contact with Niall Murray, which sent him down the order, and Sam Street, who spent some time in the pit lane. So Josh Smith really the one to watch here from the back of the grid. Car number 0, he was in the battle for the race victory and late on got into the back of Niall Murray's car down at Brooklands, damaged the car, fell right to the tail end of the field. So throughout the race we'll try to check in on Josh Smith and see how he's getting on, but he should be able to make good progress from the back. At the front of the field, Stuart Goff lines up on pole position, car number 29. Stuart was the 2014 national champion and spent a season last year away from single seaters, actually racing in the Mini Challenge, so had his taste of tin top racing and has decided this year to come back into the Formula Ford fold, and who can blame him? There are very few championships out there that can rival Formula Ford 1600 racing in terms of excitement. Jack Wolfenden alongside him, Rory Smith and Joey Foster rode 2. Foster won the first race in mixed conditions yesterday, and then we kind of expected him to be the one to beat in race 2. It didn't really pan out that way, and he ended up slipping back to 5th place, but any one of about 8 different drivers could have won race 2. In the end, it was Luke Cooper who made a sensational move around the outside of Niall Murray down in towards Brooklands on the penultimate lap of the race, and then held on for all he was worth for the last lap to bring home a victory. So we've had 2 different winners so far. Can we get a third different race winner from 3 races? I wouldn't bet against it, because this is such a competitive field. There are more than enough drivers out there capable of bringing home the winner's trophy. Around Greedo there, the red and white car, he was in the mix in race 1, so too was Michael Moyers, who will share the 3rd row with him, and you'll see further down the order, if we get a chance, we'll check in with some of these cars as well throughout the race, some of the slightly older post 1989 cars, or some of the really quite a bit older pre 1990 cars that compete in a separate class for the slightly old cars, and the Clubman's Championship. They will have their own equally intense battles towards the tail end of the field. Cars weaving this way and that, desperately trying to get some heat into their tyres. They're the only cars we're going to see racing here today that do not compete on slick racing tyres. It's all just, it's all grooved tyres. That and the lack of aerodynamic aids means that the cars aren't particularly easy to drive. They move around a lot. There's quite a bit of sliding from the rear end. The front doesn't always want to turn in, particularly when the tyres are cold. So there's an awful lot for the drivers to think about here, but there's a reason that this has become such a breeding ground for future single-seater stars, because it really teaches you everything you need to know about car control, racecraft, setting a car up so that you can absolutely make the most of it. And maybe there are limited things that you can do to it. Suspension tweaks, one of the things you can do to change the car. Tyre pressures, the teams often use tyre pressures to make subtle changes to the way the cars are handling. And other than that, really, there's not a whole lot you can do. Stuart Goff lining up on pole position then. He's the white and blue car towards the outside of row 1. Jack Wolfenden is the black-nosed car on the inside of row 1. Pole position, I remind you, is on the outside here at Silverstone, because that is the racing line. So in theory, that's where the most rubber has been laid down. That's where the most grip is. And so it should give a bit of an advantage off the line. But on this freshly resurfaced Silverstone National Circuit, resurfaced over the winter in preparation for the new season, that's not necessarily the case. It is entirely possible that cars on the left-hand side, as we look at them, could have an equal chance of getting off the line quite well. Joey Foster, I think, will be the early favourite here. We know he's capable of winning, but because of his slightly disappointing race 2 result, it means he actually gets a good grid position for race number 3. So that's the black car lining up 4th on the grid. Formula Ford legend, multiple Walter Hayes Trophy champion, Formula Ford Festival champion. He should be one to watch in the early going. Green flag then is waved at the back of the grid, and for the final time this weekend, we're going racing in the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Everybody away from the grid cleanly. Who gets the start at the front? It is going to be just about Stuart Goff that hangs on then from Wolfenden second. Joey Foster coming around the outside there of Rory Smith, the number 45 car, as they go through Copse Corner. So that will be the first side-by-side battle down towards Beckett's. Or will it? Because Jack Wolfenden fancies his chances of getting the race lead. He went for it, it didn't work, and so Joey Foster will actually launch up the inside of him to take second place away. So back out of Beckett's they go for the first time. There's the number 22 car of Jonathan Brown further back, the Road to Indy livery machine, as cars scatter behind. There was a car, I think, pointing the wrong way up at Beckett's. We'll come back to that one in a moment or two, though, because we need to sort out the leaders into Brooklands, and it is going to be our pole sitter Stuart Goff that hangs on. Foster in second, Jack Wolfenden third, Matt Rangrido fourth, and Niall Murray already making good progress. There is Niall, the white, orange and blue number 5 car. He is into 5th place already. Behind him is number 45, I think that is, which is Rory Smith. Yes, it is. But Niall Murray has come through from 7th on the grid into 5th already. The cars streak across the start-finish line for the first time, and it's a quarter of a second lead there or thereabouts for Stuart Goff. He turns his way through Copse Corner, but he's not going to get much more breathing room than that, I don't think. Again, the slipstream is keeping the field incredibly close together. For the second time in a row, it's the outside line into Beckett's that Jack Wolfenden prefers, and Niall Murray comes storming around the outside of everybody. He's at least going to get fourth. He could go third. Yes, he does. Well, we said in race one there's no one better on the brakes than Niall Murray, and then he got outbraked by our eventual race winner Luke Cooper for the victory. But other than that, Niall has been a demon on the brakes, and he demonstrated that perfectly there again, going from 5th to 3rd, and now going for the race lead. 3 abreast for the race lead through Brooklands. That was never going to work. Niall Murray backed out of it, probably sensibly, and in the end the positions stay the same. 15 minutes the duration of this race, by the way, so a bit shorter than some of the other races we've seen this weekend, but that means that all of the action is crammed into an even shorter space of time. This was the start. We saw that it was an even start really at the front of the field. Foster did get a good launch from 4th. Jinx out to the outside there, we can see off in the distance, and that's what gave him 3rd place. But it was a fairly equal start all round really at the front of the field. Fastest lap, by the way, has just been set by the man in 16th position. That's number 46, James Scott Murphy, as the battle for second place. Niall Murray trying this customary round the outside move at Beckett's, and it's going to work, and he's going to do it to Joey Foster. Bit of tyre smoke as they interlock wheels briefly, but Niall Murray has got that move down to a T round the outside of Joey Foster, and he's straight onto the tail of the race leader. So Niall Murray about to go for the race lead here. He pulls to the outside of Stuart Goff. He's good on the brakes down here as well, and another brilliant move for Niall Murray, and he goes from 3rd to 1st in 2 corners, and both of those manoeuvres were made around the outside. That takes some guts. Brilliant stuff from Niall Murray. Remember, started 7th. We're about to come through and complete lap 3, and he's already in the race lead. Stuart Goff down to 2nd, Foster 3rd, Wolfenden 5th, Matt Ranguido is 6th, and I think that was Luke Cooper, was it, coming through in 7th position? I think it was, as the drivers weave their way down the pit straight up towards Copse Corner. Niall Murray turns in, then it is Goff, then it is Foster. Joey Foster could really do with getting past Stewart here, because he will feel that really he should be in the race lead, not Niall Murray. Remember, Joey started 4th, Niall started 7th, so Joey will be a bit disappointed to have Niall ahead of him already in this race. Back out of Beckett's they go, down the Wellington straight. He'll be in the slipstream here, Joey Foster, and you can see already Niall Murray pulling a bit of a gap. That will make Joey even more eager to make this move stick. The defensive line is taken by Stewart though, so to the outside will go Joey. Late on the brakes, not late enough though. They're going to be side by side through the corner, and Joey Foster's all out of shape on the marbles on the outside line. As we're getting later and later into the day, the discarded rubber and dirt and dust that gets swept off the racing line is making that outside line down at Brooklands very treacherous indeed. Down across the start-finish line they go. There's Luke Cooper. He's just done the fastest first sector of anybody. Can he translate that into a fastest lap time? The answer is no, because Jack Wolfenden sets the fastest lap in 4th position, but the fastest lap being traded every time the cars come through, really, based upon who gets the best slipstream around the circuit. So Murray leads the way. Who's going to make the move down towards Beckett's? Anybody? Or for the first time this race, are we maybe going to keep single file for more than a couple of corners? Looks like that's the way, as everyone just tries to size each other up now. We're nearly 5 minutes into the race, and maybe things starting to settle into a bit of a pattern now, with Murray just trying to pull out this gap. He had a gap at this stage 1 lap ago, but then when they got back to the line, it was just 0.2 of a second as Joey Foster launches up the inside and takes second place away from Stuart Goff. Well, that was fantastic stuff there, wasn't it? Oh, he's sideways again. Foster's car has been oversteering all weekend, but that seems to be the way he likes it, and that was pure confidence under braking. So into second place has gone Joey Foster. What can he do about Niall Murray? What is the lead gap going to be? That's the question. It was 0.2, it's now 0.7, because Niall Murray sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 1.538, which is, let me just compare that, almost as quick as Stuart Goff's fastest lap from race 2, but not quite. It's pretty quick though, nonetheless. There's Jack Wolfenden. He's got himself ahead of Stuart Goff now as well. So Stuart Goff's just starting to slip down the order slightly into 4th position. There's race 1 winner, number 6, Luke Cooper. He's just starting to show his face towards the front of the field as well. But Murray in danger here of breaking the toe and allowing himself maybe a relatively easy time of this. Oh, contact! Jack Wolfenden into the back of Joey Foster. Joey Foster spins down at Brooklands. They're both off the road, and both of their races ruined. Joey Foster's car appears to have escaped unscathed, but he will be livid with that. Jack Wolfenden's car lost its nose cone, and we saw when that happened to Josh Fisher in race 1. That was the end of his race. There is the damaged car flashing through screen, and there is, well, that's not Joey Foster, but the car behind him is. That is Carter Williams, but the car behind him was our erstwhile front runner Joey Foster. Joey crosses the line, 13th position, so that throws the cat among the pigeons. It's so easily done when you're racing inches apart at these speeds. It's so easy to do, but unfortunately that's had fairly catastrophic effect for both of their prospects, really, and it's really opened up the lead gap. Niall Murray now has a 2.3 second margin over, well, it was Luke Cooper who was classified second, but I believe it's now Stuart Goff who is back through in second position. Yes, it is, with Matt Round-Garrido third and Luke Cooper fourth, but looking to get that third place back up the inside in towards Brooklands. Is that going to work? Doesn't look like it will, but well, we need now to keep an eye on that black car of Joey Foster, because he's still got just over half the race left to try and work himself back into a podium position. We've got a car diving for the pit lane, which I think is Jack Wolfenden with that damaged nose cone. So he makes his way down the pit lane to make some repair works if possible, but more than likely that will be the end of his race. Oh, and there's another car off in the background, which is that Michael, it's 126, yeah, Michael Moyers, 125, with broken right front suspension. Now, how's that happened? You would imagine he's made contact with someone or something for that to happen. Either way, the car is off the road and his race is done. Yellow flags will therefore be out at Luffield, or between Luffield and Woodcote. So Murray leading the way. What's going on for second? I'm getting confused now because it's changing so often. It's now Matt Round-Garrido in second place, with our race 2 winner Luke Cooper trying to take third away from Stuart Goff. Oh, Michael Eastwell spins now. Michael Eastwell was up the inside of somebody. That would have been, I think, Rory Smith, and there was maybe a bit of contact, and it is Michael who comes off worst. So that final sector is seeing all of the action. Yes, it was the 45 car that he was up the inside of. That was Rory Smith. The two of them made contact, and it's Michael that ends up off in the runoff area. Well, they're making life easy for Niall Murray here, aren't they? He's now nearly 4 seconds clear at the front of the field. Matt Round-Garrido is second, Stuart Goff is third, then it's Luke Cooper fourth, Jamie Thorburn is fifth, ahead of Rory Smith sixth, Seb Melrose seventh, Nico Gruber is doing well in 8th position, 9th place for Joey Foster now, so he's already back into the top 10, but he's 3 seconds behind anybody else. Checking in with some of the battles further back, that's James Clark in the number 78 machine making his way through. James Clark running in 20th position actually, and looking to try and get past Jay Bridger in the number 30 machine as they make their way down in towards Beckett's. Inside line is occupied though, so there's no way through at this stage. That is a significantly older car, is that number 78 machine. That's one of the older Megals in the race, but you wouldn't know it because he's competing with much newer machinery there. So into the pit lane also has come George McDonald, that's car number 67. Mechanical issue, we believe, but that is a real shame. The car getting wheeled back into the garage. His race is done. So Niall Murray 4 seconds clear of this almighty squabble going on for second place. That's Jamie Thorburn, who we haven't spoken about much today. The blue and white car number 50 running around in 5th place. He's tagged himself onto the back of this 4-car fight for second. So we've got Matt Round-Garrido, Stuart Goff, Luke Cooper and Jamie Thorburn in the Cliff Dempsey run machine. And these three are tied together by a very, very short piece of string as they make their way up through Beckett's, back down the Wellington Straight. Matt Round-Garrido trying to pull a gap, but that's probably a bit optimistic in Formula Ford racing. Actually, Niall Murray managed it, didn't he? He's got this big, big lead. They fan out under braking. Goff up the inside of Luke Cooper there. Cooper actually trying to take third place away here from Goff, and he does it round the outside. Good move that from Luke Cooper. That's how he won the race in race 2, by going round the outside of Niall Murray at that corner. So Goff slots back into line now in 4th position, just ahead of Jamie Thorburn. Jamie in the blue and white car at the tail end of that group will sense an opportunity here maybe to get a podium finish. Jamie was 5th in race 1, then slipped down to 11th in race 2 for some reason, so it's good to see him back towards the sharp end. Niall Murray may have this 4 and a bit second lead, but he's not slowing down. He's just done another fastest lap of the race now, 101.357. Great lap time that is from the race leader, but he's under no pressure. He can take the lines that he wants, and he's able to run significantly quicker. You can see there the advantage of getting into clean air and not being held up by the cars behind or cars around you, not defending, not trying to find a way past somebody. Speaking of finding a way past someone, this is Jamie Thorburn trying to get around the outside of Stuart Goff. They almost bang wheels as they turn into the left-hander at Brooklands. They just about keep it clean. Just under 4 minutes still to go, incidentally, in this third round of the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Here's a nice little battle going on further back. That's number 13, Sebastian Job, at the inside of the number 7 of John Ferguson. So nice move made there by Sebastian. That is for 16th place. Ferguson got ahead of him earlier on in the lap, and Job found a way back through again there, down towards Brooklands. 88 is Seb Melrose, and 77 is Nico Gruber. This is for 7th position, so this is inside the top 10, and they've just a little bit further away from the leading group, but these are two drivers we haven't seen much of this weekend. They've been there or thereabouts. Because of the frenetic action up front, we haven't had a chance to check in with them. Well, this is our chance to see Seb Melrose and Nico Gruber doing battle. Lots of encouragement for Nico on social media this weekend. He's got quite the group of supporters out there, has Nico, and he's doing them proud, running inside the top 10. Back through Brooklands goes Matt Rauguido, Luke Cooper. Now, the chance of a race win more than likely has disappeared for Luke, but a second place would go very nicely with his race 2 win and his 6th place in race 1. That would probably help his championship campaign no end. Can he get that second place? That's the question. Another fastest lap, meanwhile, for Niall Murray. A 101.338 is now the fastest lap we've seen this weekend. So Niall Murray, car number 5, looking good for a race victory and really stamping his authority on this race. Here at Silverstone, still pushing on through Brooklands. What's going on for second? Same order, yes, Matt Rauguido. The two red and white cars have got themselves together, but the XL Labels liveried car, number 27 is Matt Rauguido, and the number 6 car, the slightly plain liveried car of Luke Cooper, running in third. Stuart Goff is actually trying to get alongside him, and will do, I think, on the outside line down towards Brooklands. Tries to jink across to get to the apex first, but can't do it. Jamie Thorburn, Rory Smith, by the way, don't count him out either. He's lapping similar sort of pace as these four, and he's only a second behind them in 6th place. That's the red car you see, just off the tail end of that group. But if they really start falling over each other over these last 2 laps, then he could still join in the fun. So yes, penultimate lap begins for Niall Murray then. 1.5 minutes left on the clock. They're doing lap times of just over 1 minute, so 2 laps to go. And really, it's all about this fight for second place now. Can Luke Cooper make another of his penultimate lap manoeuvres? He did it to win race 2. Can he do it to nick second place away from Matt Rauguido in this one? Look towards Maggots and Beckett. He's also got to fend off the attentions of Stuart Goff and Jamie Thorburn behind him. Back out of Beckett's we go, onto the Wellington Straight, and yeah, actually, it looks as though Cooper is going to have to really turn to defence rather than attack. A bit of bodywork goes flying, not quite sure where that came from, but look at Stuart Goff. He's alongside Luke Cooper, he's on the outside line. This is for 3rd position, and Goff is going to try and brave it round the outside of Brooklands to get the inside line for Luffield. What a move! You can tell that Stuart Goff is one of the experienced drivers on the grid. That was fantastic stuff, but you can do it. It's a risky move to make, because you always run the risk of the car on the inside washing out wide and taking you out, but if you hang tough around the outside of Brooklands, you get the inside line for really the next 3 or 4 corners, so it is a good way of getting through. Last lap has begun for Niall Murray. He makes his way down towards Maggots and Beckett for the final time. 6 seconds clear of anybody else. That is very un-Formula Ford-like, but that's just been a really well-managed race from Niall. He fought his way through quickly, got to the lead, and then no one else could match him. He pulled away whilst the rest of them were fighting, and really has never been headed since half-race distance. For second place, though, things are still unsure. Matt Rauguido has a car length or so's advantage over Stuart Goff in 3rd. Luke Cooper 4th. Will do everything he can to fight back, but this is the final time down towards Beckett's. Last chance saloon here, and around the outside he's done it again. Luke Cooper does exactly what he did in race 2 and makes a late move round the outside at Brooklands. That's exactly what Stuart Goff did to him a lap ago. All of this, though, is happening some 6 or so seconds behind this man, as Niall Murray is going to make it. 3 different winners from the first 3 races of the season. He wins round 3 of the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Is Matt Garrido going to be held to hang on to second place? Yes, just by 0.2 of a second over Luke Cooper in 3rd, Stuart Goff 4th, Jamie Thorburn 5th, and Rory Smith in 6th. Nico Gruber got the better of Seb Melrose in their race-long battle for 7th. 9th place goes the way of Joey Foster. He'll be a bit disgruntled after that one though. And Michael Eastwell rounds out the top 10. So Niall Murray really stamping his authority on that race, but he left behind some brilliant battling for second place. Matt Garrido gets his best result of the weekend in 2nd, and Luke Cooper will probably have had one of the most consistent weekends, a win, a 3rd and a 6th for Luke Cooper this weekend. That will put him in good stead early doors as far as championship points are concerned. So Niall very happy indeed with that, isn't he? Punching the air with joy. Niall, not always the most lively of drivers when he wins, but he's certainly happy with that. And he waves to the marshals as well. A shout out to the marshals this weekend as well, who've been out there in all sorts of weather, particularly yesterday, and they continue to do as professional a job as ever. Niall Murray it is who takes the win in round number 3 of the championship. Matt Garrido is 2nd, Luke Cooper 3rd, ahead of Stuart Goff and Jamie Thorburn, rounding out the top 5. Then it's Rory Smith, Nico Gruber and Seb Melrose 7th and 8th. Joey Foster only 9th, what could have been after his race 1 victory, and Michael Eastwell in 10th place. Cars are down in the pit lane then. Drivers will shortly be getting out of the cars and catching their breath before they have a word with Bryn down there. As the crowd, the appreciative crowd, a sizable crowd here as well this weekend, it must be said, at Silverstone, they rather enjoyed that, I think. Right, down to Bryn in the pit lane, who's got our podium finishers.
Right, well, Niall, just getting your gear off here. Well done, well done. That one seemed much more like your good self.
Yeah. That was a really good race, really enjoyable to just keep driving round and around in the dry, and the car felt absolutely perfect. I couldn't improve it whatsoever. So as soon as I got in the lead, as soon as I broke the toe, I knew I could just bang in the quick laps. And yeah, massive thanks to Bernard. If it wasn't for him, we would, won 2. It brought Matt on a lot as a driver, and it brought the car on a lot since yesterday as well. So.
A whopping 6.5 seconds ahead. It looked pretty easy from the outside, but tell us what it was like from the inside. Was it that easy?
No, it wasn't easy. I was constantly trying to get faster lap time. I knew the guys were obviously battling, so kind of halfway through, when I could see them a good bit back, I knew if somebody broke away like Joey or Matt, someone quick, they could actually catch me. So I knew I had to build that gap, and yeah, managed.
And of course, Joey had that spin and went back to 13th at that point.
Yeah, I saw Joey behind me at one stage, and then he was gone. I didn't know what happened, but yeah, that's unfortunate for Joey. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be back fighting a knockhill.
Well done, good win there. Let's move on now. Let's go over this way here, shall we? Let's grab Matt. If we get you in front of your car, Matt. So tell us a little bit about that race there. It looked pretty fraught. I mean, the distance between you and 3rd was minimal at best.
Yeah, I think one good word for that race would be chaos. I think that would be a good word for it. But what can I say? Car was great, engine was great. I'd like to thank everyone from Medina for the great car. I'd like to thank everyone from Team Dolan for running it so well. I'd like to thank Morgan Dempsey for the great engine. I'd like to thank XL Labels for the great sponsorship, and my dad for making it all possible. Also, massive well done to Niall Murray. He's being my driver coach as well at the minute, so it's been a great 1-2 for the team, and what a way to start the season.
I think Niall's going to have to watch out. Well done there. Great second place. Let's move straight over to 3rd, shall we? Right, Luke, that was, we've been talking to all the drivers so far, another one that was so close, so tense.
Yeah, it was. I started down in 8th for that one, and I was really happy to come out of it with a podium. It's a good point. So I got up into 2nd, and I wanted to try and catch Murray ahead, but nobody else wanted to play ball, so we ended up in a titanic battle for 2nd, but happy with the podium.
Yeah, titanic battle is the term I think we'll use.
Yes, definitely.
Well done, 3rd place. We'll leave you to go to the podium right now.
Thank you very much.
So thanks very much, Bryn, and those drivers will make their way up into the podium as the spectators watch on. They've had a good time this weekend, I think, haven't they? It's been great to see so many people here at Silverstone this weekend. And our Avon Tyres Formula Ford National Championship drivers have given us plenty to get excited about. Joey Foster, Luke Cooper and Niall Murray are 3 race winners for the weekend. Niall winning the latest race, but we've had so many different drivers on the podium as well. Michael Moyers had a podium in races 1 and 2. We've got Matt Round-Garrido up there as well, and there are drivers like Stuart Goff, like Jamie Thorburn, who are knocking on the door of that podium, and as the season goes on, we'll get to see exactly what they can do. The highlights of the race then: early good start for Stuart Goff. He got the lead in towards turn 1, but immediately the racing was intense. It was Niall Murray though who was carving his way through the field like a hot knife through butter, making endless moves around the outside of various corners to take over the race lead. So Niall Murray got into the lead and then was able to pull out a big gap whilst the battling behind grew ever more fraught until disaster for Joey Foster and Jack Wolfenden. Contact putting them both out of the equation. A lap later, Michael Eastwell had a similar incident down at Brooklands, all of which meant that Niall Murray was able to get his head down and pull away. Then the battle was all about second place, a four-way scrap between Matt Round-Garrido, Stuart Goff, Luke Cooper and Jamie Thorburn, which eventually saw Matt Round-Garrido come on top. It was Murray that took the victory though, and once again we have 3 different winners in the first 3 races of the season. Podium then is being prepared. Ian Smith from BRSCC is there ready and waiting to hand over the garlands and congratulate our top 3 finishers from that race. And there, third place finisher makes his way up. That is Luke Cooper, race 2 winner. 3rd in this one, 6th in race 1. It's been a really consistent weekend for Luke. Matt Round-Garrido, great to see him on the podium for the first time this year. He gets his way into 2nd place. But Niall Murray, the only man who has been on the podium in every race. He was 3rd in race 1, he was 2nd in race 2, and he goes all the way to the top step in race 3. Victory in round 3 of the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship goes to Niall Murray. The 3 drivers gather at the top of the podium, and we will see them next time out at Knock Hill. We can't wait to see what they have in store for us over the rest of the season.
Well, welcome back to Silverstone for the second TCR UK race of the season of ever. Next to Dan Lloyd right now, the winner from race 1. We've got a whole lot to get through for race number 2. We're going to come to that in just a bit because race 1 was rather interesting. And to give us all the classification and what happened, here's our commentator, Andy McEwen.
Yeah, thanks, Bryn. It was a fascinating race. Daniel Lloyd took the victory. Of that, there was no discussion. He had a very comfortable winning margin. Initially, we were told that Aidan Moffat, who finished second on the road, had been given a 5-second time penalty, which would have demoted him down to 4th place. That was then reinstated. So this is the official result, with Dan Lloyd the winner. Aidan Moffat did in the end finish second, with Oliver Taylor third. Andreas Bachmann was 4th and Howard Fuller in 5th place. So the big story, Aidan Moffat reinstated into second position, which means that he does not lose too many points to Dan Lloyd. And we caught up with Aidan Moffat after race 1.
Well, Aidan, that was a little bit different, wasn't it? You had the penalty, but it got taken away, so second place is yours again.
Yeah, happy with second. I was a bit confused coming in, getting waved by the podium. Yeah, we've struggled a little with the car. It's a very soft chassis car, which makes particularly sector 2 quite difficult. Go mid to exit in the slow corners, so I was using all the track plus a bit. But the rules kind of dictate that you get that initial warning, and after that it's the 5-second penalty. And yeah, so I was looking for the flag, it never came, so I thought I can just keep on doing what I'm doing, which made it a bit confusing when I seen that I had a penalty. But no, it's been reversed now, so it's good to be on the podium.
So you were pushing and pushing and pushing, waiting for that, at least some acknowledgement that you may be pushing too hard. That never came, so you carried on going. Pretty
much, yeah, trying to keep up with Dan. But yeah, the car just arrived with a few. We have to keep developing it. Dan drove a brilliant race, and he's got a lot of experience in these cars, so it was never going to be easy. But no, so well done to Dan, and yeah, happy with second.
It's, you got to feel a little bit for Andreas, so don't you?
Yeah, I felt a bit guilty walking up the steps to knocking him off the podium. But yeah, there's one more race.
Second place, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really was a pretty interesting first race there. With the end, we thought Andreas Bachmann had got it, but no, Moffat there put back into second place. Now, what's happening here, as you can see, the grid's slightly different, and this is because the way the grid works in TCR UK is we take the second fastest qualification time, top 10 are then reversed, which means Stuart Lyons here, he starts on pole. If I get in here and grab a quick word with Stuart. Now, Stuart, pole position, not the way you'd like pole position, but you've got it nonetheless.
Yeah, I think we're in a bit of bother here because we're in the we're in the DSG car, which everyone knows is a lot heavier and slower. So I'm going to be a bit of a sitting duck, but I'm not going to give up. I'll give it the best shot. Just got to drive it as hard as I can. But you know, if I can hang on to mid-pack, I think that's the best we can hope for. But let's just see what the race brings. You never know. People run into each other, don't they?
They certainly do. Good luck to this, Stuart. Let's hope not too many people run into each other. We need as many on the grid as we possibly can. I'm going to go over here and grab Ollie Kangas. Now, we spoke to him earlier on. He starts second on the grid because of that reverse grid system. Ollie, you're starting right at the very front this time. Well, pretty much anyway. What do we reckon? You're going to be on the podium?
Yeah, I hope so. I have to get a good start.
It's all down to the start, is it?
Yeah. It's a good thing to get good start, and then you have to defend your position.
Get a good start, then defend. Good luck to you there. Good start, then defend. We've got over here, we've got Andreas Bachmann, and we know that Andreas, well, we know that he had that third place taken away from him. I did speak to him in between races, and he just sort of said, hey, that's racing, that's the way it goes. And that is pretty much the best way of looking at these sorts of things. Let me just unclip this for a second. So, Andreas, you had that podium taken away at the end, but you're more determined now to get a podium this time?
Yeah, now I want to get at the podium like you do it, like you should do it. So yeah.
And you've got Stuart Lyons ahead of you, and he's got the DSG box in his car, slightly heavier car, so you should be able to get past fairly quickly.
Yeah, hopefully I can pass him in the beginning and then just drive away, but we will see how everything goes.
All you got to do is get past him and get away. Good luck to you there, Andres. As he says, talks a very good race. It's very busy down here. We've still got, I believe, a couple of cars to get onto the grid as well. Now let's move a little bit further back. Carl Swift, he had a spin earlier on in the first race. And, well, I asked him how it went earlier on, and he just sort of said, it was all right until the spin happened. So, Carl, earlier on, you said it was going okay for the first couple of laps.
Yeah, it was a good couple of laps. I managed to gain one place and keep up with the sequentials, so I was happy with that. And then just about to do a move on Lewis Kent, down into the second to last corner and locked the rears and spun out in front of the whole field, ended up last.
Which wasn't ideal, but where you are right now, do you think you can move forward, or is it a case of holding on?
With this car on this track, I think it's a case of holding on as best I can.
Right, OK, lovely. Well, we caught up with Ollie Taylor earlier on, in fact, the other day, and here's what he said. Well, I'm here with Ollie Taylor. Ollie, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into TCR.
So, yeah, TCR is a bit of a new chapter for me. So racing's always just been a little bit of a hobby. Something done for fun, a bit of club racing, and kind of want to take it to the next step. Looked at a few options and thought TCR seems the best route, really exciting, and should provide some good close racing. So, yeah.
And looking at the car behind us here, the beautiful Civic. Tell us about this car and what it's like to drive compared to the things that you've driven in the past.
So I've only ever driven rear-wheel drive in my racing, Caterhams, BMWs, so it's completely different. But really intuitive, actually. It's quite predictable. It's a really fun thing to drive. The whole learning the technique of front-wheel drive approach has been quite interesting, a bit challenging, but yeah, really enjoy it.
And you got the help, a little bit of help, a bit of mentoring by Josh Files. Now, he's a pretty good person to have in your team, in your camp.
Yeah, Josh has proven his success, and the connection with the team there is, yeah, it's been sort of invaluable, really. It's been quite a steep learning curve the last few weeks. Completely changing everything I know and what I had to relearn, and yeah, Josh has certainly helped that, yeah.
Now, here at Silverstone, we've had some pretty challenging conditions. It doesn't seem to want to be dry at any stage, but you've been out there a couple of times, you've had a bit of a play, so tell us a little bit like what you expect from this season and expect from this weekend.
Every time we go out in the car is a bit of a learning curve, to be honest, but yeah, a bit of dry running yesterday, which went well, times were good, felt comfortable in the car. Wet running yesterday afternoon in the really wet, which was good. We were fastest in that session, which was great. Free practice warm-up then. We went slicks straight out the gate, which we thought was going to pay off, but the track didn't quite come to us, unfortunately. But that's free practice. You know, we were trying things. I haven't done any running on slicks in the wet, so yeah, it was times weren't there, but that doesn't matter for that session. So yeah, pleased with that.
So let's say, let's cut to say Sunday night. Are we going to see you on the top step of the podium? Are we going to see you somewhere on the podium at all? Or are we going to see you back here with your feet up?
Decent point finishes is all we're after. Yeah, that's we'll go with that. So yeah, any decent result. You know, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of talented guys out there. It's already proven it's going to be close, whatever happens. We just want points finishes, best points as possible. Podiums would be a great way to start.
Ollie Taylor, good luck. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Well, Ollie was telling us that he wasn't too sure about a podium, but he got a third place in that first race. He was very happy. He's got, as you can see, a fair few cars ahead of him, but I wouldn't write him off to get another podium, that's for sure. Now, a man that we thought we were going to see maybe at the sharp end kind of fell back. Lewis, what happened in that first race?
Well, we got a great start and got away quite well. Got to the back straight and we had no power. We've only just found out we had a loose turbo, so that's where our problem was. But yeah, we've done that up, tightened it all up, have fixed all the damage that we had from the first race. Hopefully we can go back out in this one and get to the sharp and get going a bit more.
So everything's been bolted back in order, you hope, and you should get to the sharp end. I mean, looking ahead of you, you've got some pretty strong competition there.
Yeah, got some strong drivers in front of me. Obviously, I've got Howard who pipped me in qualifying yesterday, so if I can latch onto the back of him or Ollie, who are both quick in the dry, I'll try and get onto the back of them and get away as fast as I can, but it all depends from how my start is and how well the car's performing, so hopefully it all just goes well.
But you've also got Aidan Moffat behind you, so it's not just what's in front.
Yeah, I've got to watch out for Aidan. Aidan's a quick driver. But yeah, hopefully it all just goes well and we can work together, all of us, and just push out to the front.
Good luck, Lewis, good luck. So we've spoken to a fair few number of the grid. As you can see, the grid girls and gentlemen now leaving the grid. And Little idea of what the atmosphere is like. I think at the moment everyone's got those nerves again, the nerves they had at the first race. Nobody wants to have an error. We've got, I believe, no, maybe Derek Palmer hasn't made it out actually. So we were looking for Derek Palmer earlier. They had an injector problem, and I don't think they've managed to get it fixed. But Aidan Moffat just there, you can see how far back he is. He's got quite a long way to go, but I know he's determined to get a #1, and he's got Dan Lloyd just ahead of him too. So the first race winner just there. It's a pretty exciting, pretty tense, pretty nervy, and I tell you, there's something to add to the nerves right now that you might not be able to get if you're watching at home, is the weather. It is dry, but it's feeling a bit damp in the air, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we got some raindrops at some stage over the next half hour or so. So that's kind of how it feels here. I know that Andy is gearing himself up ready. In fact, you know what, I just said about rain, and a few spots of rain have just gone past us, so it is not necessarily beginning to rain very heavily, but we've got a few damp spots in the sky. Andy is there in the dry, and he's got to call this race, which is no tricky job at all. Andy, good luck. Here he is.
Yeah, thanks, Bryn. This is going to be fun, that's for sure. And with a little bit of moisture in the air, that could just throw an extra spanner in the works. Here's confirmation of your grid then. The top 10 tyres, second fastest tyres of qualifying, with first to be Stuart Lyons, is on pole position alongside Ollie Kangas, who was very racy in race 1, Andreas Bachmann, one of the early race favourites, and Darrell Wilson, whose race 1 ended in the Beckett's gravel trap. Carl Swift also had a spin. He's 5th on the grid alongside Howard Fuller, Ollie Taylor and Lewis Kent with a now fully working turbo. He will be on row 4. Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat next in line on row 5, ahead of Jessica Bachmann and Finlay Crocker, whilst at the tail end of the field, Derek Palmer, I believe, was there on the grid. I did spy a second Laser Tools liveried Alfa Romeo Giulietta TCR car, so we do have a full grid. There is Derek Palmer Jr., in fact, you can see, at the tail end of the field, so we've got a full quota of cars, do we? Yeah, right, yes. So Darrell Wilson is at the back of the grid, we're being told. Some part firmate issue, we believe. So the Vauxhall Astra that should have lined up 4th on the grid is actually going to be starting from the back. That's going to be interesting to watch for. And it leaves a gap in front of Howard Fuller, who didn't get a great start in race 1. We have spoken to Howard a few times this weekend, and he said he was still trying to get his head around the launch control system on that car. A few drivers, in fact, have said that. So he hopefully will be able to get a slightly better start this time around. We heard reference on the grid there to the DSG gearboxes. I mentioned this in race 1. The DSG gearbox essentially is a flappy paddle gearbox. The sequential gearbox, you have a lever which you push forward to go down a gear and backwards to go up a gear. And the 2 cars running that DSG gearbox are the 2 Cupras of Stuart Lyons and Carl Swift, while there is a separate DSG trophy. And whichever of the DSG drivers have more points at the end of the year wins the trophy and wins a free upgrade to the sequential box. So Stuart Lyons versus Carl Swift, that was a storyline in race 1. Swift looked as though he was going to win it, then he had the spin, and Stuart Lyons actually became the first winner in the DSG trophy for this season. Will that be the same story in this second race? We'll have to wait and find out. Of course, we'll be watching for Dan Lloyd, our race 1 winner, and Aidan Moffat coming from the 5th row of the grid. Interestingly, Dan Lloyd finds himself ahead of Aidan Moffat on the grid for this one, because it was based on the second fastest lap times, not first. Well, Aidan Moffat's second fastest lap time was quicker than Dan Lloyd's, which means that he starts behind him on the grid, rather frustratingly. But that means that Aidan once again will have to find a way past that rapid West Coast Racing run VW Golf. So the grid has been cleared, the green flag lap is about to begin, and it's really important now to get some heat in the tyres, especially if there's a bit of rain in the air. Remember, tyre choice critical, they'll all be on slick tyres, but they kind of have to predict what the weather's going to be like, and if at any point over the next 30 minutes it rains, that will really change things up a bit. So away from the line they go. There goes Lewis Kent. Interesting to hear from Lewis there that he had an issue with the turbo in race 1. We did expect him to be more competitive than he was, having qualified 4th and almost on pole position in qualifying yesterday. So keep an eye on that orange and white Hyundai of Lewis Kent to really start carving his way up the order. He's starting back there with the quick runners, isn't he? Ollie Taylor just in front of him, Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat just behind him. So this is that's going to be an interesting little group of drivers to watch for. Early stages, if I was bold enough to make any predictions about this race. The man I'd be watching is Andreas Bachmann, lines up third on the grid, and Andreas was a revelation in race one, came storming through the order and ended up finishing fourth, but having qualified only 8th for race one, it was a bit of a surprise, pleasant surprise nonetheless, to see him up there fighting for a podium position come the end of the race. So give him a good grid position and we'll see what he can do. So that's the first of the 2 blue West Coast racing cars. He and his sister Jessica Bachmann racing in this pair of races this weekend. Ex-rallycross racers, a pair of youngsters. And the other West Coast racing run car is that one, the white car of Dan Lloyd, who is working really hard to get speed into the tyres. Stuart Lyons, though, on pole position. Now that is a recipe for excitement, if ever I heard one. The DSG cars, yes, they're a bit heavier. Yes, they're a little bit slower once they get going, but 2 points to make. First of all, Carl Swift was looking plenty competitive enough in race one before he had that spin, so they can be competitive. And the second point is that apparently they're a little bit better off the line, so it may well be that Stuart fancies his chances here of getting into Copse Corner first. Another driver to watch out for towards the back, Finlay Crocker in the new shape Honda Civic. He had an awful qualifying session yesterday. He was really not pleased after qualifying, but he came charging through to finish 6th in race one. So that car seems to have much more race pace than qualifying pace, and Finlay himself says he's a better qualifier than a racer. So just as in race one, there are plenty of stories to follow. We've got cars out of position on the grid. We've got the reverse grid thrown in there as well. And we've got Stuart Lyons and Ollie Kangas in a pair of Cupra TCR cars on the front row of the grid together. Ready and raring to go for round number 2 of the TCR UK Championship for 2018. We've had a really successful start to the season in race 1. What will race 2 bring? Let's find out. The lights go out, away we go, and Andreas Bachmann seems to have made the best start from the front of the grid. He's going to try and shoot the gap up the middle of the 2 Cupras in front of him. He's cleared Kangas, he's cleared Lyons, so Andreas Bachmann leads through Copse Corner for the first time. Lyons and Kangas will run side by side for second position. Look at Dan Lloyd. Dan Lloyd in the white car is charging around the outside, so too is Ollie Taylor, but Dan Lloyd's up to 5th, he's going for 4th, and here comes Aidan Moffat. Aidan Moffat round the outside of Lloyd as well. This could be crucial. Moffat will really want to get past that VW Golf as soon as possible and try to control the race from there, and they will be side by side down the back straight. Bachmann leads, Kangas second, Taylor third by the looks of it, with Stuart Lyons down to 4th, and Moffat and Lloyd go either side of Stuart Lyons. They split him down the middle, and Lloyd is on an absolute tear. He's third. Dan Lloyd is third. He eases Ollie Taylor out wide. Moffat comes through as well up the inside line. Aggressive stuff from Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat, but they need to get to the front quickly. Ollie Kangas is the next one in the sights of Dan Lloyd, and that would be remarkably for second place from a 9th on the grid for Dan. So they come through. Bachmann leads by nearly a second over. Ollie Kangas second, Dan Lloyd third, Aidan Moffat 4th. Ollie Taylor is there in 5th place, and he'll feel a bit disgruntled after his treatment on that first lap, I think. Lyons is down to 6th, and the next car behind Stuart Lyons is the other DSG Cupra of Carl Swift. That's an important battle to watch for. There's Stuart Lyons, there is Carl Swift with Howard Fuller up the inside of him, and then Lewis Kent. Looked like Jessica Bachmann and Finlay Crocker came together in the background as well, but the leaders are making their way down the back straight. Andreas Bachmann, he said on the grid he wanted to get the lead at the first corner and pull a gap. That's exactly what he's doing so far. It was a textbook start from the Swedish youngster, and he has the early lead, all courtesy of that lightning fast getaway off the line. Stuart Lyons, you can see, didn't get a bad start in the DSG Cupra, did he? And it was enough to at least keep him in the battle for second at that point. Carl Swift had a really good start, I noticed. He was up into almost 4th place by the time they got to turn 1. Now, Dan Lloyd is second. Dan Lloyd has got past Ollie Kangas out of our sight, but he's into second place, and Aidan Moffat is trying to do the same thing on the inside of the Finnish driver. They almost lean on each other through Copse Corner. This is not what Moffat needs, because now Ollie Taylor joins in as well. 3 abreast down towards Beckett's. Moffat's gone through, Taylor's gone through. Now those two need to sort it out between themselves. Kangas tries to get back up the inside as well. Moffat goes through. Taylor will keep Kangas at bay, and they settle themselves down for the time being. But that's just given Dan Lloyd that bit of a break. He's already going off after his teammate. Yellow flags down at Brooklands wide. Eric Palmer Jr. has not come through. So the second of the Alfa Romeo Giuliettas that's been plagued with mechanical issues this weekend. He has rejoined off in the distance, but possibly is pit lane bound. So it is a VW Golf 1-2, West Coast Racing 1-2. The cars may have different liveries, liveries, but they're both being run under the same awning, and it is Andreas Bachmann being caught by Dan Lloyd, who has the fastest lap of the race. He's in the slipstream and he's closing down. Moffat into third, Taylor is fourth. I'm really impressed with the pace that Lloyd and Moffat have shown there. They've really made that progress quite a bit quicker than I expected them to. So Bachmann leads down to Beckett's, but Dan Lloyd is with him already. 58.663 was Dan Lloyd's lap time last time around. That's already 0.3 of a second quicker than anybody went in race 1. So immediately they found a bit more pace in the cars for race 2. There's Lewis Kent looking a bit more competitive this time around as well, in 8th position at the moment, as they make their way down towards Brooklands for the 4th time. Dan Lloyd is with Andreas Bachmann, who runs wide and opens the door for the Brit up the inside. Not quite enough of an opening to get through. Now Dan will need to be careful here. This is his teammate and he knows he's faster, so he doesn't have to rush this too much, but every lap that he spends stuck behind Bachmann, Moffat is going to get closer and closer behind him. Back across the start finish line they go. The Alpha you see in the distance is Derek Palmer Jr., who had a moment on lap 1 and has recovered, but almost a lap down, so that's a shame for him. Leaders back through Copse. Andreas Bachmann, this is pressure. This is pressure. The first ever race winner of a TCR UK Championship race is breathing down his neck, and he will be doing everything he can. He doesn't need to move out of the way. He is perfectly entitled to race here with Dan Lloyd. Why on earth not? And it looks like he's going to do his best to keep his illustrious teammate behind. For third, by the way, Aidan Moffat is not escaping from Ollie Taylor. So Ollie Taylor is looking maybe to get himself back into the podium positions. That could be interesting. Back through Brooklands come the leaders. A nice, neat and tidy line this time from Bachmann, which does not open the door for Dan Lloyd, but then he runs wide at Luffield. There's a gap up the inside for Dan Lloyd. Did that pay off on the exit of the corner? Not quite, but there might still be an overlap. These cars identical in straight line performance, but Lloyd has the inside line, and Daniel Lloyd is about to move through, potentially into the race lead again. Down towards Copse Corner he goes. Lloyd on the inside, Bachmann on the outside, and Daniel Lloyd has done it from 9th to 1st in 5 laps. Remarkable stuff from Dan Lloyd. Can Bachmann fight back on the exit? I don't think he can, and that might be the last we see of Dan Lloyd if his race 1 pace is anything to go by. Down towards Beckett's we go again. Moffat is catching with Taylor as a result of that. He's only 1.6 seconds back, and there for 5th position is Ollie Kangas, almost being assaulted by Howard Fuller down at Beckett's. Howard a little late on the brakes and has to regroup and try to chase him back down again. So Lloyd leading the way, Bachmann now down to 2nd. And the next question is, can Aidan Moffat find a way through past Andreas Bachmann and get back ahead of back after Dan Lloyd? Have they been able to work on that Alfa Romeo, the Laser Tool squad, between races? Remember, there was only a 20-minute window in which they could fix the car, refuel the car, change the tyres and make any setup changes they wanted to. So only 20 minutes to do that. There's only so much you can do in 20 minutes really. So how much of a change have they been able to make? Well, Moffat just did his personal best lap, which is a 58.917. His fastest lap in race 1 was a 59.1, so he's 0.2 quicker than he went in race 1 already, Aidan Moffat. That tells me that maybe they have been able to find some performance in that car. He might have an answer for Dan Lloyd yet. Oh, Howard Fuller again late on the brakes into Beckett's. Now look at this going on further back. Oh, Jess Bachmann into the back of Darrell Wilson. This is Lewis Kent in 8th position, Jess Bachmann in 9th, Darrell Wilson, excuse me, now in 9th, 10th for Jess Bachmann, 11th Carl Swift, and 12th Finley Crocker. Darrell Wilson's Vauxhall is falling apart, courtesy of that shove that he had from Jessica Bachmann down at Beckett's, but it's not stopping him from attacking. He looks to the outside there of the Hyundai down towards Brooklands, in towards Luffield they go. Lewis Kent more competitive in this race than race 1, but still seems to be struggling a little bit. Doesn't need to keep this lot behind. Darrell Wilson is looking really racy in the slipstream. The Hyundai, a quick car in a straight line, but that Vauxhall is not sluggish either, and he's almost pushing Kent across the start-finish line. Looks to the inside. Darrell Wilson trying to take away 8th position from the youngster into Copse Corner. Kent will try to turn even if he can, and he does, and that means they're still side-by-side on the exit. What did Jess Bachmann and the others do? This, remember, is where these two collided in race 1. Lewis Kent and Darrell Wilson, but Wilson gets it this time cleanly. Wilson is through, and Jess Bachmann now launches an attack up the inside of Lewis Kent. Lewis Kent going backwards again, unfortunately, through no fault of his own, really. Finley Crocker gets through as well, and now Carl Swift also starting to join in the fun. Remember, Carl is still behind Stuart Lyons in this race, and Lyons is still leading in the DSG Trophy. Back down through Brooklands comes this sensational battle pack for 8th position, and it is Darrell Wilson who got past Lewis Kent at the corner at which they tangled in race 1 and put Darrell Wilson into retirement. So that will have felt good for Darrell, former VW Cup racer. In fact, he was a pioneer of diesel technology in the VW Cup, racing a diesel VW Scirocco. The trouble for Darrell may well be that loose rear bumper, potentially, if that catches the eyes of the clerk of the course. Leaders, meanwhile, have gone through onto their 9th lap of the race. Dan Lloyd 1 second ahead of Andreas Bachmann, but Bachmann, Moffat and Taylor are all fairly close together. That's a nice battle that's going to start developing over the next few laps. Back down in towards Beckett. Wilson's rear bumper falls off. That's good news, because it means that he won't be pulled into the pit lane to get it repaired. So that is good stuff for him. This is the fight for 5th. Meanwhile, Ollie Kangas, having started on the front row of the grid, has now got Howard Fuller, who really impressed in qualifying yesterday with 3rd place. Didn't have a great start to race 1, but fought back and eventually was able to finish 5th. He's now trying to take 5th position away from Ollie Kangas in this race as well. Back down across the start-finish line they go. Kangas leading the way for 5th place, excuse me, with Howard Fuller behind him. And they're just detached slightly from that group behind of Lyons and Darrell Wilson and everybody else. Back down towards Maggots and Beckett they go. The Laser Tools squad watching on with anguish here to see what Aidan Moffat can do. He's right with Andreas Bachmann now, by the way, I can see on the timing screen. But Ollie Kangas trying to keep Howard Fuller at bay. Here are the leaders, and yes, I thought so. Aidan Moffat is with Andreas Bachmann. He's up the inside of Andreas Bachmann nearly as he heads in towards Beckett. Brooklands, excuse me. But Moffat has really closed in on Andreas Bachmann. Now, the more time he spends stuck behind Bachmann, first of all, the further away Dan Lloyd will get, and also the closer Ollie Taylor will get to him. So this is going to be a very, very interesting situation here. He'll want to get through as swiftly as possible. They've all put a lap on Moffat's teammate, Derek Palmer Jr., so he's out of the way. Lewis Kent is being warned, meanwhile, for exceeding the track limits, but we'll focus on that a moment, because Aidan Moffat is alongside Andreas Bachmann, and in the end, Andreas makes it fairly easy for him. I think he knew that Moffat was quicker, and it almost serves him better to just let Moffat through and try to work together to close in on the leader, because Dan Lloyd has not run off into the distance. He's only 1.6 seconds clear. They could still be able to catch him. Ollie Taylor is also catching the pair of them as well. As they make their way down in towards Brooklands for the 11th time of asking, it is Moffat now into 2nd place. I mentioned that black and white warning flag for Lewis Kent. That is not a time penalty as of yet. That's just a warning. If he does it again, though, if he exceeds the track limits again, then he will be given a time penalty. Aidan Moffat is also being warned for exceeding the track limits. Now remember, he very nearly fell foul of that in race 1, so he needs to be careful. Aidan Moffat in 2nd place. He may have just taken that 2nd place, but he's being warned for exceeding the track limits. One more time, and he will be given a 5-second time penalty. Seems all right out of Cop's corner, though, so Dan Lloyd leads by 2.2 seconds over now Aidan Moffat. He's not shaking off Andreas Bachmann yet, though, in 3rd. Ollie Taylor in 4th, Howard Fuller in 5th, Ollie Kangas is 6th, so they have changed around now, so Fuller has found a way through. Then it's Stuart Lyons and Darrell Wilson next in line. In fact, Darrell Wilson is catching Stuart Lyons as well, so there are lots of interesting battles developing throughout the field. For now, though, we focus on this fight for 2nd place. Aidan Moffat, having got past Andreas Bachmann, is really not getting away from the Swede, is he? Andreas has been such a revelation this weekend. We knew he was quick. We didn't realise he was quite this quick, and he is now putting a real challenge on an experienced touring car racer. You forget how long Aidan Moffat has been racing touring cars. He's been around for 4 or 5 years in the touring car arena. He knows what he's doing in one of these things, and here is Andreas Bachmann, ex-rallycross racer, 1st season of touring car racing. Says he's only here to prepare for the Scandinavian Championship, but I know that he is keen to get out for as many races as possible this year, and you can see why. His sister, meanwhile, Jessica Bachmann, has just gone up the inside of Darrell Wilson, so that puts her into 8th position now, as she will chase down Stuart Lyons. Finlay Crocker is also slowly making some progress. He's in 10th place at the moment in that new shape Honda Civic. He will now try to get up the inside of Darrell Wilson. He's had a much tighter line through the corner and does get alongside the Vauxhall as it goes down the straight. Finley's been complaining about a bit of a lack of straight line speed this weekend, but he's looked racy enough in the pair of encounters we've had today. Darrell Wilson, in fact, coming back at Jess Bachmann now as they go into Brooklands, but there's nothing doing there. Back through the left-hander they go. Bachmann a bit wayward there, but gets back in front of Darrell Wilson, holding on to her newly acquired 8th place. Aidan Moffat back through Copse Corner, and look at Andreas Bachmann now. Let's see, are they catching the leader? Answer no, 2/10 slower than Dan Lloyd last time around. So Bachmann may as well go for this and try to find a way through back into 2nd place. He's no reason really to show too much respect to Aidan Moffat here. If there's a chance to get back ahead of the Scottish driver, then he will go for it. Back down the Wellington straight they go. The Alpha is quick in a straight line, but Bachmann's VW seems more than capable of staying with him. Another car being warned for exceeding track limits, which is car number 45, which is Carl Swift, who also got in trouble for that in race 1. So far these are just warnings rather than actual time penalties, but with still over half the race to go, that's not a nice position for a driver to be in, because one more lapse of concentration, one more, a little bit too much speed carried through a corner and heading over those white lines, and all of a sudden your race could be ruined. Back across the line we go, 58.9 for the leader, 59.4 for Moffat, 59.5 for Bachmann, and a 59.9 for Ollie Taylor. So nothing particularly changing across the top 4. Back down in towards Beckett's they go. Moffat hard on the brakes. That car does seem to move around a lot. And look at the way that Jessica Bachmann has caught Stuart Lyons. That's happened over the course of just a lap or so. This is for 7th position now. So Jessica Bachmann, maybe she's been chatting to her brother between races. She's really making that West Coast racing car sing. Darrell Wilson, meanwhile, what's left of his car is trying to keep Finlay Crocker's Honda behind him, and Finlay's up the inside again in towards Beckett, but then the momentum carried by Darrell around the outside line just means that he's able to keep the place down towards Brooklands. Just in front of them, Jessica Bachmann is attacking. She's looking to the outside of Stuart Lyons. You don't know where to look in this race, do you? So many battles up and down the order. But the place has not yet changed. You sense, though, that the change is imminent, because Stuart Lyons is coming under increasing pressure now from the Swedish youngster. And Jessica certainly not being overshadowed in this field, is she? She is more than capable of getting stuck in, getting her elbows out and racing her way through the field. If she could get past Lyons, you wouldn't bet against her catching Ollie Kangas or maybe even Howard Fuller in front. Back through Copse Corner, Lyons defends on the way in. That, in theory, could give Jessica a chance to attack on the exit. It doesn't quite pay off. Now, what's Finlay Crocker going to do? This has been his favourite place to attack all day. Oh, he tries something new this time, goes to the outside. Way too late, Finlay, way too late on the brakes. Tries a bit of grass back onto the track. Is there an issue with the car? No, I think he's okay, but that was... well, he kept trying to get up the inside for lap after lap, but then that time tried something different and it didn't pay off. So Moffat and Andreas Bachmann still in the same order, still not quite as quick as Dan Lloyd in front of them, but 0.4 of a second is all that's between them. Andreas certainly going for this and really trying to find a way past the much more experienced touring car racer. Replay here. Oh, he got very close to the back of Aidan Moffat's car. A bit of contact between the two of them into Luffield. I don't think that was intentional by Andreas. He just tried to roll a bit more speed into the corner, but Aidan Moffat had sort of stopped on the apex and they met in the middle. No damage done. Aidan won't be too disgruntled at that. It didn't cost him a place, but that was a signal of Andreas Bachmann's intent. He wants this 2nd position. West Coast Racing would love a 1-2 finish as well. They got 2 cars, well, they thought they had 2 cars on the podium in race 1. They had 1st and 4th in the end in race 1, but this time they'd really love a 1-2 finish, and it's well within their grasp. Back down through Luffield we go. Jessica Bachmann, meanwhile, has found a way past Stuart Lyons. So Jessica Bachmann is now up into 7th place, 3.1 seconds behind Ollie Kangas, and so she'll be monitoring that gap now to see whether she can catch him. Leaders go through, 2nd and 3rd. There's Ollie Taylor 4th, then the lapped car of Derek Palmer Jr., but he's keeping good pace, which is interesting to see. Howard Fuller coming through next in 5th, then Ollie Kangas in 6th, and then 7th place for Jessica Bachmann, and you can see she's already racing away from Stuart Lyons, who's now coming under pressure from the other green car of Darrell Wilson. So Lyonsy struggling a little bit maybe at this stage of the race. Darrell Wilson, meanwhile, has been warned for exceeding the track limits at turn 1, which is Copse Corner. So another driver who's on the hit list for the clerk of the course. If he does it one more time, 5-second penalties coming his way. Leader Dan Lloyd again. Now Bachmann looks really strong through this part of the circuit, doesn't he? He's attacked here several times, and he might have got an overlap here. Gets a much better exit from the corner, a tighter line, but Moffat is just about able to hang on. Back through Woodcote we go. And so in the pit lane, the teams are watching on with interest the live stream to see what's going on, because of course you can't see the whole circuit from the pit lane, so the live stream proving very useful for the teams and family members watching on down in the pit lane. That's great to see. This is also great to see. Young Andreas Bachmann, one of the youngest drivers in the field, the Swedish driver, at the wheel of the number 19 West Coast Racing VW. Andreas Bachmann, 22 years of age, so he is actually only a year older than Aidan Moffat. So these are two of the youngest drivers in the field going head to head for second position, and it really is fantastic to see. Back through Brooklands they go. This is where Bachmann seems strong. He can carry so much speed into the right-hander at Luffield. If ever he can get close enough to throw it up the inside there, I think he would absolutely go for that move. There's no reason for him to sit in third place for the remaining 11 minutes. If there's half a chance, I think he'll go for it. We've already seen that earlier on in the race. Dan Lloyd, 4.3 seconds now clear of Aidan Moffat at the front of the field, who of course is rather busy. He's got his hands full of Andreas Bachmann. Our Stuart Lyons' mood will not be improved by the news that he's now being warned for exceeding the track limits at Copse Corner as well. And he's coming under further pressure from Darrell Wilson, who only a lap or so ago we were told had done exactly the same thing. So these two drivers both on final warning as far as track limits are concerned. And you can see Stuart Lyons gets nowhere near the exit curve that time. He's not taking any risks as far as that is concerned. Stuart, though, is looking good still, isn't he, for a double DSG trophy victory, so he can still salvage something from this weekend. The Maximum Motorsport prepared car. Maximum Motorsport, of course, Stuart Lyons' team. Now, this is Ollie Taylor with the lapped car of Derek Palmer Jr. just behind him. What's interesting me here, though, is that Derek Palmer Jr., for all of his issues he's had this weekend, he's had hardly any track time whatsoever, really, certainly not in the dry, but he is keeping pace with Ollie Taylor, podium finisher from race 1. So clearly, Derek, in fact, he's actually challenging Ollie Taylor now as they go down the back straight. There is a lap between these two cars, but this is a great showing for Derek Palmer Jr. to show that he has got the speed. When the car works, he can be really competitive. This is good to see from the young Scot. Makes his way back down towards Beckett. Ollie Taylor doesn't need to defend from him, but Ollie hasn't got anyone else to race with at the moment, so it's good for him to be able to compare himself to another car, a quick car, on the circuit. Now, a bit of bodywork there, flapping loose on the back of Aidan Moffat's car. That's presumably courtesy of that little love tap that he had from Bachmann a few laps ago at this very corner. Again, you see Bachmann rolls it in. That was where Moffat was really struggling in race 1. He said on the grid, didn't he, to Bryn earlier on, that the car is set up very soft, and that makes it hard to turn in through the tight corners, and that is why Bachmann is able to just carry much more speed through the corner. The trouble is converting that into a potential overtaking manoeuvre. Across the line go Taylor and Derek Palmer Jr. Teams continue to watch on with interest. What can Andreas Bachmann do? He's got 9 minutes, just less than 9 minutes left, to find a way past Aidan Moffat. Oh, bit of a lock-up there for Moffat. That will be encouraging news there for Bachmann. Meanwhile, further back, I can tell you that Darrell Wilson has found a way into 8th place ahead of Stuart Lyons. So Lyons is slipping further back, but he's still a couple of seconds ahead of Carl Swift, his class rival. Dan Lloyd has been the class of the field this weekend. Pole position yesterday. We sort of didn't know whether that was a genuine pole position, though. We knew he was quick. We didn't know whether he was the quickest driver here, but he's proven today, without a doubt, that he has been the master of the Silverstone National Circuit. Aidan Moffat's been his nearest rival thus far, but Andreas Bachmann still feels that he's got a chance of getting into second place here. Across the start-finish line they go. The VW of West Coast Racing is only 0.3 of a second behind the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. Both of these cars look absolutely stunning. The car that Andreas Bachmann is driving is one of the two cars that West Coast Racing ran in the TCR International Series last year, and that's the joy of TCR racing, of course, that you can take a car that you race in the UK Championship and you can compete in any other National Championship, a European Championship, a World Championship even, if you wanted to. We heard Jonathan Ashman saying at the start of the broadcast that is exactly what he wanted to create, or Marcello Lotti and everyone else at WSC wanted to create with TCR. And so this car we saw being driven by the likes of Gianni Morbidelli and Altoe last year in the International Series, and now the Backmans have got hold of them for 2018. And this Backman is looking very racy. Aidan Moffat's having to really drive defensively here. He's just slowing down through the apex so as not to allow Backman to get a run on him onto the next straight. Their pace, though, is really slowing. They're 4 seconds still behind Dan Lloyd, and we've got 7 minutes remaining on the clock. Ollie Taylor still 4th, Howard Fuller 5th. Good battle developing further back. Finley Crocker and Carl Swift are catching Stuart Lyons. That could be an interesting one to watch for over the next few laps. There's Ollie Kangas, front row starter. Is he being caught by Jess Backman? Yes, by about 0.4 of a second last time around. So again, throughout the field, the gaps are ebbing and flowing, and it's interesting to see the drivers that are coming on stronger as the race goes on. They're potentially the ones that have looked after their tyres the best. 6.5 minutes still to go. Cocking an inside rear wheel there was Aidan Moffat. Backman is getting dangerously close to the back of the Alfa Romeo now through his strongest part of the circuit. Ollie Taylor still keeping the lap to Derek Palmer Jr. behind him, but not by much, it must be said. It's good, though, to see Derek getting some laps in here. Remember, he had a mechanical issue, we believe a return of the fuel injector gremlin from yesterday that put him out early in race 1. Second place here, Aidan Moffat over the curb a little bit there, possibly still within track limits. Down in towards Maggots and Beckett's they go. Backman, you know that he's quick. We get right onto the tail of Moffat now. There was almost a bit of paint traded. He's heading now down towards the part of the circuit where he's been strong, and he's in the slipstream as well. So Backman, I'd say, closer than ever at this part of the circuit, and this is where he seems able to maybe outmaneuver the Alfa Romeo slightly. Moffat has to defend. That's also positive stuff from Andreas Backman, and he's right on the tail of the Alfa Romeo now. He goes to the outside line in towards Luffield, overlapping for second place. Now, what can he do on the exit of the corner? Moffat slows it right down through the middle of the corner. Can he get the run? No, not quite. Moffat hangs on. Clever defensive driving there from the Scotsman, and he keeps Andreas Backman at bay. So they head across the start-finish line, back down towards Copse, and Backman is starting now to run out of time and run out of options, because Moffat has realised where Backman is fast and has worked out exactly how he can defend from him. Further back, Stuart Lyons and Finley Crocker. I said this gap was coming down. Crocker in 10th place, trying to get into 9th. Remember, Finley was 6th in race 1, and now he draws himself along Stuart Lyons, but it's the outside line heading in towards Copse Corner. Watch for a switchback manoeuvre maybe on the exit. Or the tail of the Honda just steps out slightly as he turns into the corner, and so Stuart Lyons keeps on hold of the position. Lewis Kent, incidentally, has dropped back down to 12th place in this race as well, some way off the pace, so not convinced they got that car entirely fixed between races. As I said, only a 20-minute repair window in which to figure out what the problem was and rectify it. Stuart Lyons and Finley Crocker almost side by side into the braking zone here at Brooklands, but Crocker can't quite get the overlap, can he? These two cars seem very evenly matched. Crocker, a good racer though, makes his way through Luffield. Time running out though now, only 4 minutes to go, and if Andreas Backman's going to find a way past this man, he has to do it quickly. We've got 31 laps in race 1, so by my reckoning about 4 or 5 more laps we'll get in this race. Can Andreas Backman find a way through? He's been pressuring Aidan Moffat race long. Moffat got past him, and you sensed really that Andreas made it fairly easy for Moffat to go through earlier on, maybe expecting Aidan to run off into the distance. That didn't happen, and now Andreas knows that maybe that was a mistake. Maybe he should have got his elbows out and defended a bit more. Looking to try and get the run out of Luffield, really trying to time it right, can't quite do it this time. And then the Alfa Romeo is always being quick in a straight line. That car's always gone well at high-speed circuits with long straights, and that's proving to be the case again here. But this is a battle that's kept us riveted throughout the race. Dan Lloyd and Aidan Moffat got to the front of the field fairly rapidly, but then whilst Dan Lloyd's been able to establish himself as the leader, Moffat has not had an easy ride. Nor has Stuart Lyons, who started on pole position. He's slipped back to 9th at the moment. He would love to stay there, but Finley Crocker would love to dislodge him from that 9th position. fuel filler cap again coming open slightly, I think, on Finley's car, but he makes his way down into the first turn. Lines defended briefly, then thought better of it, came back onto the racing line as they turned in. The good news is that rain that we discussed pre-race never did materialise, so it's been dry conditions out there throughout, which has given us a fair race. Crocker, oh, so close. He would want to reach out and touch him and just push Stuart Lyons out of the way, but he wants to try and keep this as clean as possibly he can. Tries to pull alongside down the back straight. These two cars almost identical in straight line speed performance though, so it's all going to have to be done in the braking, and there he goes on the inside. No, not quite. Finley Crocker, oh, but Stuart was a bit late on the brakes, gets out onto the marbles. Finley Crocker does now get alongside, but it's the outside line into Luffield. How frustrating. He finally forced the mistake out of Stuart Lyons. Oh, Aidan Moffat slows down. Aidan Moffat has slowed down from second position. Andreas Bachmann is into second, and Moffat has a problem. Aidan Moffat, I don't believe it, with less than 2 minutes to go, second place has gone by the wayside. What is the problem? This car has run faultlessly all weekend long, and it's grinding to a halt. He's not even going to make it back to the pit lane. Aidan Moffat out of the race. What drama at the end of the second round of the championship, and Andreas Bachmann's pressure pays off. Oh, what a bad moment for the Laser Tools Racing squad, because Derek Palmer's car's in the pit lane now with another issue as well. So both of the Alphas out within seconds of each other, and all of a sudden the Laser Tools Racing team's race has imploded. So Dan Lloyd now has a 5.5 second lead over Andreas Bachmann, who flashes through screen. Third place is going to be Oliver Taylor, I think, and fourth for Howard Fuller. So yet again, Howard has quietly gone about his business and worked his way back through. Right, let's see what happened. Well, Moffat knew there was a problem instantly. The car slowed down, he pulled out of the way, and Andreas Bachmann sailed straight through, but what was the problem? That we do not know, and unfortunately he hasn't even made it back to the pit, so we can't ask him. One more lap to go after this one, so we're going to get the full 31 laps in again that we did in race one, and Dan Lloyd looking good for a double race victory. But the way this race has gone, I'm counting no chickens just yet, because we've seen late race drama in both races now. Finley Crocker still hasn't found a way past Stuart Lyons, but of course this is now Battle Rate, and behind them I think that was Carl Swift locking up and going straight on. Did he manage to keep it on the black stuff? Can't see Carl Swift there anymore, so I'm not sure whether he did, but that was, if I know, Carl Swift is not there. So has Carl Swift gone off of the brackets, I wonder? We'll find out in a moment. Finley Crocker turns his way. Yeah, Carl Swift has disappeared. Carl Swift has disappeared completely there from 10th place. I saw him lock up at Beckett's and I haven't seen him since. So anyway, back onto the final lap we go. And this battle now, the one that's going to run to the flag, I think, between Stuart Lyons and Finley Crocker. You wouldn't bet against Finley making a last of the late breakers lunge somewhere on this last lap, though. He's always been an exciting driver to watch, as too has Dan Lloyd. He's driven imperiously this weekend. He made the start from pole in race one and led from lights to flag, but in this one he had some real racing to do, and the speed at which he was able to work his way through the field was remarkable. And with Aidan Moffat's troubles in this race, it will be a maximum points haul at Silverstone for Daniel Lloyd. That is just how he wanted to start his season in 2018. He's very pleased with that, and it's a West Coast Racing 1-2 with Andreas Bachmann coming through in second place. A sensational weekend for the young Swede. Oliver Taylor, I think, is going to come home in third place, and we're going to get Honda's third and fourth, because it's Howard Fuller who was running in fourth. Yep, there's Taylor third across the line. Fourth place for Howard Fuller, and fifth place for Ollie Kangas, with sixth place for Jessica Bachmann. So both of the Bachmanns get inside the top six. Well, another dramatic race you've got to feel for Laser Tools Racing and Bob Moffat's team, because they were looking so strong. Aidan Moffat was, it looked as though he'd seen off all of the challenges that Andreas Bachmann had thrown at him, and all of a sudden, with a couple of laps to go, the car expires and his race is over. And then at the same time, Derek Palmer Jr., who had shown some really good pace in that race, his car came into the pit lane to retirement as well. So a real shame for them, but West Coast Racing will be very, very pleased indeed. Dan Lloyd and Andreas Bachmann, a 1-2 finish, and Volkswagen's clean sweep here this weekend, but a pole position and 2 race victories for Dan Lloyd. That is a maximum points haul, except for the fact that Andreas Bachmann set the fastest lap in race one. But other than that, really, the weekend couldn't have gone much better for Dan, who we really hope will be back along for more races this year, because he is a class act, someone who has had success in almost all forms of motorsport, touring car racing, GT racing, all sorts, and Dan, a really good spokesperson for TCR racing as well, so he's a good guy to have on board, and he's going to be even more eager than ever to stick around. So the cars making their way back down in towards the pit lane. Daniel Lloyd, Andreas Bachmann and Oliver Taylor are top 3 finishers, and Bryn is down there to catch up with them.
And there is the race winner, Dan Lloyd, taking the second race of the day. 2 TCR UK races, 2 wins for Dan Lloyd. We've got Andreas Bachmann, he's in second place after earlier on where he thought he had third and then was cruelly taken away from the last moment, and then Ollie Taylor coming in with his second third of the day. Well done there to Dan, punching into the air. Let's grab hold of him. Dan. Well done, well done. We'll give you a couple of seconds to take your crash helmet off, but again, Dan Lloyd taking the race win.
Sorry, mate.
Got a sorry, mate, from Dan Lloyd. Don't you worry, you take your time, Dan. There we are, 2 race wins. Dan Lloyd, 2 races, 2 wins.
Yeah, it was an amazing start. One of the best first laps I've ever done, and sometimes you just know when you're on it, and I've been on it all weekend, and I just had one focus from the start. I was 100% confident. I know what I wanted to do, and just went for it, and it paid off, yeah.
Well, you had to gain 9 places to get up to the front there, but you did it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I know, it's a long race, and the plan was to sort of pace it and, you know, just take your time, but you gotta take these opportunities in touring cars. I've been inexperienced in the past. When you don't go for it, you end up the one being pushed out. So it's better to really attack, yeah.
Happy with your day's work so far then? Happy with the way it's gone?
Yeah, massively. Massive thanks to West Coast Racing. They've done an awesome job giving me this opportunity. It was a late deal, like I said before. We're really pushing to carry on, but yeah, over the moon with the weekend.
Well done.
And also, well done to my teammate Andreas. It's his first time in this series as well. He's done an awesome job, and yeah, over the moon he's got a podium, so.
Well, he and Aiden were having a bit of a battle behind you. That was helping you out, actually. He was giving you that bit of space.
Yeah, I was watching that in my rear mirror, so yeah, over the moon for him.
Yeah. Let's go and grab hold of Andreas. He's being congratulated by pretty much everyone right now. So, Andreas, here he is. They're very, very happy. Andreas, congratulations. After what happened earlier on, you must be over the moon, as we say over here.
Yeah, it was a really good race. It was very hard to pass the guy in second, but then in the end his car broke down, so then it was free for me to go in second place, but it was really good race.
It was proper touring car. You got a little bit close a few times.
Yeah, sometimes a little bit close, but yeah, that's a part of touring car racing, so yeah.
And what a great start you had too. So all in all, you must be pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm very happy with this race. It was really good, and also the race before was also really good, so yeah.
And that's pretty good prep for Sweden as well. Well done there to Andreas Bachmann. Let's go over here to third. 2 thirds. You must be pretty happy, Ollie.
Yeah, it's a good way to start a year. I thought it could have been better at the start there. Made a good start and was ahead of Aiden and Dan, but Dan snuck a move through at Brooklands, and before you knew it, Aiden was up the inside, and after that, unfortunately, didn't quite have the pace to stay with him. It's unfortunate Aiden obviously had some sort of issue there, but 2 thirds, yeah, great start to the year.
So interesting you mentioned Aiden. He just rolled past you a second ago, towed back to his garage. It looked like it was between Aiden and Andreas up ahead of you, but then you got that little moment.
Yeah. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I'm not sure quite what the issue was, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, take away 2 third places at the start of the year. It's a great way to start.
Yeah, would you have taken that at the beginning if someone said to you, look, Sunday afternoon you'll have 2 third places and the first ever weekend of TCR UK?
Yeah, definitely great points to get in the bag and hopefully start a great year.
Well done. Time for the podium though. Off you go. And back up to Andy then. Back in commentary.
Yeah, thanks, Bryn. Just about recovering from what has been a dramatic day of racing here at Silverstone, with the TCR UK drivers have put on quite the show. Daniel Lloyd, a double race victory. Andreas Bachmann second, Oliver Taylor 2 third places. Consistency is what wins championships. He's going to be in the mix all year, I think. Howard Fuller again, 4th place, good consistent day for him, ahead of Ollie Kangas, 5th place, having started on the front row, good job from him. Jessica Bachmann really getting racy towards the end of the day, ended up 6th. Darryl Wilson survived this race in almost one piece in 7th place, ahead of Stuart Lyons, who wins the DSG trophy. Finlay Crocker is 9th, and Carl Swift, the other DSG Cooper, rounds out the top 10. So fantastic stuff from everybody involved with TCR UK. They have put on a brilliant performance here at this debut weekend for the championship. I think a lot of people will have sat up and taken notice this weekend of just what a great championship this could become, and this already is, with some great racing up and down the order. So podium almost ready to get our 3 drivers up there in reverse order: Oliver Taylor, Andreas Bachmann, and our race winner Dan Lloyd. We're just waiting for the drivers to make their way up there. It sometimes takes some time, especially when they've got lots of discussions to have with each other. Well, how did your race go? Oh, well, mine went all right. Or I was going to overtake you, pull down there, wasn't it? These are the sort of chats that the drivers end up having on the way up to the podium, and sometimes they can go on a little bit. But we are, I think, about ready. Gemma Ratzing there from TCR UK, ready to help out with the presentations. Jen's put an awful lot of hard work into making this happen, and I know she's been a bit emotional on a few occasions this weekend, as have we all, to see the success that it's become. So on to the podium comes Ollie Taylor, 2 third places, a good afternoon's work for him. And the Honda Civic looks as rapid as ever, doesn't it, in TCR competition. 3rd place trophy for him. A huge cheer for Andreas Bachmann down below the podium. That is one of the feel-good stories of the day, isn't it, to have him on the podium. And then we wait for our double race victor and early championship leader, Daniel Lloyd. 2 race victories, a pole position. You can't ask for much more than that. A great victory for Dan Lloyd. And he holds the winner's trophy aloft on the top step of the podium. They all now gather together for the photos together on the top of the podium. But they are 3 very, very happy drivers, very enthusiastic drivers, and hopefully 3 drivers we'll see fighting for the championship over the course of the season.
Should get champagne this time.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a fantastic weekend of racing with TCR UK. Here is how the early championship standings look. Daniel Lloyd, as we said, a fairly handy championship lead, it must be said, over Oliver Taylor in 2nd place, 25 points the advantage. Andreas Bachmann 3rd, who would have said that at the start of the day, ahead of Howard Fuller and Aidan Moffat. Aidan Moffat, 5th place, 47 points off the championship lead. Such bad luck for the young Scotsman. Ollie Kangas 6th, Jessica Bachmann 7th, Finlay Crocker 8th, Stuart Lyons 9th, and Lewis Kent in 10th. Teams Championship, unsurprisingly, sees West Coast Racing with a very comfortable lead. Pyro Motorsport, though, had a consistent weekend too. Sean Walkinshaw Racing 3rd, only 1 point ahead of the Laser Tools Racing squad. That's going to be an interesting battle as the year goes on. LMS Racing only running the 1 car, but they're still up there in the top 5. Horizon Connect Racing, Maximum Motorsport, Stuart Lyons squad 7th, ahead of Endurance Financial Racing, Essex and Kent Motorsport, and DW Racing round out the 10. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for a history-making weekend. TCR UK is officially here, and I think everyone has sat up, taken notice, and realised just how exciting this is going to be. I can't wait for Knock Hill next time out, racing in the reverse direction around there. That's going to be a lot of fun indeed. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.